Chapter 720. In the luxurious bedroom of the Hilton Hotel, the sound that made people's blood boil lasted for a long time and finally subsided. Chen Fei's crystal-like forehead was covered with fine sweat, and a few strands of beautiful black hair stuck to it, which had a different kind of charm. Her pretty face was flushed and her eyes were closed, like a cat that had just been fed, enjoying the aftertaste of satisfaction. Lu Chen held her with his left hand, and his right hand wandered around the thin silk quilt, which made his girlfriend moan. "Stop it, it's itchy." Lu Chen smiled, hugged her tighter, and asked, "Did you collude with Li Mushi?" In the car on the way back to the hotel, Li Mushi was acting strange. She must have known in advance that Chen Fei would come. Otherwise, how could Chen Fei stay in the room and give him a big surprise? This business suite at the Hilton Hotel was booked by Li Mushi. Chen Fei said with a smile, "What do you mean collude? I didn't let Mushi tell you." Lu Chen said helplessly, "You came here like this. Huairou Studio is going to be shut down, right? You from the Star was in full swing in China and South Korea, and the shooting work of the crew was undoubtedly very tight. Before Lu Chen came to the United States, he negotiated with the director Fang Hui to modify the shooting plan so that he could squeeze out time. Now that Chen Fei also flew to the United States, the crew was bound to be greatly affected. Chen Fei moved her body to make herself more comfortable in Lu Chen's arms and said irresponsibly, "Then I don't care. I just want to accompany you." Lu Chen was moved and couldn't help but lower his head and kiss her on the cheek. "It's okay to stop. At most, we'll broadcast one episode a week for a few weeks. It's nothing more than an apology to the audience and fans. In fact, it's not a big deal." "It's so good to have you," he said silently in his heart. A strange sound came from under the quilt, breaking the warm and sweet atmosphere between the two sides. "Ah." Chen Fei suddenly blushed. Lu Chen said with a smile, "Are you very hungry? I'll ask the hotel to send the food up." The service in the Hilton Hotel was very good. Whenever guests wanted to eat, they could lie in bed and open their exclusive app on their mobile phone to order food. It was very convenient and there was no time limit. Chen Fei covered her face with the quilt and said in a low voice, "I didn't eat anything on the plane." Lu Chen laughed, picked up the phone on the bedside table, and ordered a romantic meal for them. When the two of them got up and put on their clothes, an exquisite and delicious meal was sent to their room by the hotel waiter. When they got up and put on their clothes, the room they were in, the room and the hotel, the Lu Star. Chen Fei was, of course, asking about Lu Chen's experience on Flight UD 725. Although she had learned about the whole process of the incident from the media and watched the 3-minute video, it was another thing to hear Lu Chen say it himself. When Lu Chen finished, she couldn't help but hold Lu Chen's hand and said, "Next time, don't be so impulsive." Although Lu Chen said it very easily, how could she not know the danger at that time? Wolf Cook shot at Lu Chen, and he was a member of the U.S. Marine Corps. Chen Fei's palm was cold. Lu Chen nodded and said, "I know, I'll be careful next time." Chen Fei shook her head and said, "I was wrong. There won't be a next time." Her expression was very serious. Lu Chen was speechless and could only change the topic. "By the way, did you get the visa so quickly?" It took 10 hours to fly from Beijing to New York. It was Chen Fei's first time in the United States. Usually, it would take 3 days to get an express tourist visa. Of course, this time she got the visa and passport, so it would be much easier next time. The tourist passport was valid for 10 years. So Lu Chen was very puzzled. Wasn't it too fast? Speaking of this, Chen Fei was very proud. "I used my connections, and then the U.S. Embassy gave me special treatment. The main reason was because of you. They were very easy to talk to." So that was the case. Lu Chen suddenly understood. "Since we're here, let's play in the United States for a few more days." But Chen Fei was very happy, but she thought of a very important problem. How do we explain it to the fans? It didn't matter if the two of them played in the United States for a few more days, but the filming and broadcast of You from the Star would definitely be delayed. At that time, the fans and audience would probably be angry. Simple. Lu Chen immediately took the phone and said, "Let's take a photo, explain the situation and apologize." They will understand. Fans were a very cute group. As long as they treated each other sincerely, they were very tolerant of their favorite stars. Let me, Chen grabbed the phone and instructed Lu Chen to pose with her. They took more than a dozen photos in one breath. Then she picked out the most satisfactory one and posted it on her account on Wave's blog. The title was, "I just flew to New York to accompany someone, asking for blessings." As soon as Chen Fei's blog post was published, it immediately attracted the attention and comments of countless fans. "Ah, my Fei really flew to the United States. A candlelight dinner, so romantic. Big dog food was suddenly fed to me. I didn't even brush my teeth in the morning. Don't say anything, let's give it a like first. I guessed it a long time ago. Blessings." The fans naturally gave all kinds of likes and sent their blessings. Of course, there were also complaints of being fed dog food. Everyone was very surprised because Beijing and New York were separated by the ocean, and it would take more than 10 hours to fly there. It was really touching that Chen Fei ran to New York to accompany Lu Chen so quickly. Their blessings were also completely sincere. Looking at the entire domestic entertainment industry, it was really impossible to find a better celebrity couple than Lu Chen and Chen Fei. As fans, everyone also hoped that the two could be in love for a long time. It proved that true love was always there. Then, Lu Chen followed up with a blog post, apologizing to all the fans and the audience of Xingyu. He said that due to personal reasons, there would be changes to the filming plan of Xingyu, and asked for everyone's understanding. In other words, the broadcast of the follow-up episodes of Xingyu would be delayed, but the fans overwhelmingly expressed their understanding. They wanted the two to have a good time in the United States and make up for it when they returned to China. The fans were actually very easy to talk to. The key was in their attitude. Some celebrities did not understand or did not care. They always treated their fans high and mighty, and as a result, there would not be many supporters left. In this regard, Lu Chen and Chen Fei did their best. After settling the fans, the two of them could have an unexpected sweet vacation in the United States. However, it was not like Lu Chen had nothing to do. Other than attending the business negotiations, he still had to participate in the recording of Irene's talk show. Chapter 721. On the second day Chen Fei arrived in New York, Lu Chen accompanied her to tour the most famous city in the world. The two of them took photos in front of the Statue of Liberty, fed pigeons in Central Park, visited the Metropolitan Museum of Art, and went shopping in Times Square at night, enjoying the prosperity and scenery of the city without restraint. On the third day, Lu Chen was invited to participate in the recording of the new episode of Aaron's talk show. According to the New York TV station, this episode of Aaron's talk show already had invited guests, but it was this celebrity who suggested to Aaron to let Lu Chen participate in the show first. This was because she admired Lu Chen's bravery and fearlessness. Therefore, Aaron's talk show had a rare last-minute change of guests. The recording was in the afternoon. The New York TV station sent a special car to bring Lu Chen and Chen Fei to the TV station headquarters. Although the latter was not a guest, he could get a seat in the audience. In the backstage of the studio, Lu Chen met the talk show host who was named the most powerful woman in the entertainment industry by Forbes magazine, Irene Christian. Irene Christian was 47 years old this year. She was slender and slightly thin. She had short blonde hair and a pair of blue eyes. Her smile made people unconsciously like her, and she had a unique temperament and charm. Lu Chen had heard of this famous host for a long time. He had watched several episodes of her talk show online and had left a deep impression. Irene Christian's show used social hotspots and controversial topics that people cared about as its theme. It never followed the popular shows of others, and thus established a unique and distinct style. In similar shows, her competitors often made the guests confess their personal secrets, or showed the dysfunctional individuals and families of the guests, or even took pleasure in exposing and humiliating the guests in trouble. However, Aaron found ways to comfort and help the guests who encountered life or emotional setbacks and hardships so that they could improve themselves from the bottom of their hearts. She dug a vent for the people who were suffering from mental torture so that they could happily release their depression. This won her the respect of countless people. "Hello, Mr. Lu Chen. Irene extended her hand to Lu Chen. "Welcome to my show, our hero." Lu Chen smiled and said, "It's my honor. I'm very happy to have the opportunity to participate in your show." He shook hands with Erin and introduced Chen Fei. "This is my girlfriend, Chen Fei." Chen Fei smiled. "Hello, Ms. Irene. I'm a fan of yours." Erin was pleasantly surprised. "Lu, you have an angel." She didn't shake hands with Chen Fei. Instead, she gave the latter a warm hug. She didn't hide her fondness for Chen Fei at all. "Miss Chen Fei, how about you and Mr. Lu appear on my show together?" In the New York television station, especially in the program with the highest ratings, Irene's talk show, Irene had supreme power. She could easily change the theme and content of the program, including the guests, as long as she thought it was necessary. Chen Fei hesitated for a moment and declined politely. "Thank you for your suggestion, but I think it's more appropriate for me to sit in the audience. Lu Chen should be the only guest protagonist." Irene wasn't displeased by Chen Fei's refusal. Instead, she praised, "You have the heart of an angel." If it were anyone else, they would probably be overjoyed. However, Chen Fei didn't want to take away Lu Chen's attention at this time. This showed her deep love for Lu Chen. Lu Chen held Chen Fei's hand. Before he could speak, Chen Fei shook her head gently and firmly. She knew what Lu Chen wanted to say. But now, Chen Fei just wanted to sit in the audience and applaud him as an ordinary audience member. Lu Chen understood her insistence. He nodded and raised her hand to his lips to kiss it. Irene watched from the side, her eyes shining. She was touched and envious. The recording of the latest episode of Irene's talk show on New York TV began at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. The 220-seat studio was already full. When the lights on the stage were fully lit and Irene Christian walked out of the backstage wearing a set of beige casual clothes, the audience burst into thunderous applause. "Irene! Irene! Irene!" All the audience stood up and applauded her arrival. These audience members weren't hired by the TV station. They were chosen from countless enthusiastic audience members by the TV station. They were all Irene's true fans. "Hello, everyone." Irene greeted the audience with a smile. Then, she walked to the front of the audience and shook hands with them one by one. Some of the audience members who shook hands with her were so excited that they shed tears. Irene hugged and comforted them. The 3 cameras faithfully recorded this touching scene from different angles. She interacted with the audience for a few minutes before returning to her own stage. As usual, Irene first complained about a few hot news topics. These news topics were closely related to the lives of Americans, such as the ongoing healthcare reform, immigration, and education issues. Irene's comments could be said to hit the nail on the head, and from time to time, she made witty remarks. The applause and laughter of the audience never subsided. After telling a hilarious joke, she said, "After saying so much, I think everyone is looking forward to today's guest, right? Now, let's welcome this guest to our show. Welcome, Mr. Lu Chen from China. Welcome the hero who saved Flight UD 725. Before the recording began, all the invited audience members didn't know the identity of the guest. So when they saw Lu Chen come on stage with a smile, they were silent for a moment before bursting into enthusiastic applause. In the past few days, Lu Chen was undoubtedly the most familiar Asian face to all Americans. His deeds were widely reported by countless TV stations and newspapers. He was one of the biggest hot topics in American society. Therefore, the audience was pleasantly surprised when Lu Chen appeared on Irene's talk show. Their welcome was sincere and sincere. At this moment, Chen Fei sat on the far right of the first row of the audience. Her eyes followed Lu Chen's figure closely as she applauded and cheered with the audience. This was Lu Chen's glorious moment, and it also belonged to her. Chapter 722. Lu Chen sat down on the guest seat. The atmosphere of Erin's talk show was very relaxed. The host and guests sat opposite each other, as if they were chatting with friends. There was no need for too much pressure and apprehension, so it was easy to open up. Erin asked first, "Mr. Lu Chen, do you have an English name?" Lu Chen thought for a moment and said, "You can call me Dawn." "Dawn." Erin's eyes lit up. "Daybreak?" Yeah, I like that name. She continued to ask, then Dawn, can you tell us your age? Of course, I know this is a very private question, but before the show started, many people asked me to ask you this question. I think those girls are all your fans. Erin deliberately emphasized the word girls, causing the audience to laugh knowingly. Lucien smiled and said, there's nothing to hide, I'm 25 this year. 25 years old. Erin had a look of reminiscence on her face. The best age of my life. I'm thinking about what I was doing when I was 25. Yeah, at that time, I had just entered New York TV station, looking forward to one day becoming a director of a TV station. But until now, I haven't realized my dream. The audience laughed. If Erin really did realize her dream, it would probably be New York TV station's biggest loss. Erin asked Lucien, Dawn, I heard you're a singer? Lucien nodded. Erin, and an actor? Lucien, yes. Erin, and you wrote your own scripts? Yes. The host asked a few questions in a row, and after getting a positive answer from Lucien, she was satisfied and introduced Lucien's identity to the audience, as well as his status and reputation in China. Many people in the audience only knew that Lucien was the hero who saved Flight UD-725, but they had no idea that he had so many other identities, such as being a household name in China. Through such a straightforward exchange, everyone had the most intuitive understanding of Lucien from China, letting them know that Lucien was not an ordinary person. Then, the topic turned to the UD-725 incident that everyone was most concerned about. Although the truth of the UD-725 flight incident had been completely exposed, and Lucien had accepted many media interviews at the press conference, the official interview was obviously different from the current conversation. Erin's point of view was not to dig for more details or insider information. Instead, she was seriously discussing with Lucien about his thoughts during the crisis, as well as the psychological changes after the crisis. What was interesting was that Erin also asked Lucien about his views on the United States. One of the biggest characteristics of Erin's talk show was that there was no script. As a guest of the show, they had no idea what kind of questions Erin would ask on the show, nor did they have a teleprompter. And in this interview that would be watched by tens of millions of Americans, Lucien's performance could be said to be impeccable. He answered Erin's questions fluently in English. Although he did not say much, he was humble and appropriate, and occasionally had a few humorous words. This made the atmosphere very good, with the audience applauding, smiling, and laughing from time to time. Many of the audience were really surprised, because in Lucien, they saw a very different Chinese person from the impression they were used to. Lucien was young, handsome, dashing, frank, generous, and fluent in English. Erin asked, if a Hollywood film company were to invite you to shoot a movie, would you stay in the United States to work? Lucien smiled and said, I'm very willing to cooperate with a Hollywood film company, but for now, I still have a TV series that I have not finished shooting in China, and I also have plans for a movie this year, so I have no schedule for the time being. Actually, I hope that I can get my own movie to be shown in the United States. Erin smiled and said, then I'm looking forward to the day when I can see you on the American screen. Lucien said, thank you. At this moment, a slip of paper was passed from the audience, and it was passed to Erin by the field assistant. This was another feature of Erin's talk show, which was that the audience could write small slips of paper to ask the guests questions. Of course, the question slips had to be screened by the staff first, and there was a limit to the number of questions. Erin opened the slip of paper and looked at it, then said to Lucien, this is a request from a live audience member. He saw your video on the internet, and he thinks that your singing is very good, so he would like to invite you to sing a song on our show. What do you think? Lucien thought for a moment, then nodded and said, yes, can you find me a guitar? A normal one will do. Erin smiled and said, of course, that's not a problem. She gestured to the staff on the sidelines, who quickly picked up the guitar. Lucien moved his chair and turned to face the audience. He held the guitar and pondered for a moment, then said, in my country, there's a saying, when you're in a place, you should respect the customs of that place. So today, I'll sing an English song. Even Erin was surprised by this. Erin's talk show had invited many singers, rock, folk, country, rap, etc. There was no lack of singers who would sing a song live. Aaron knew that Lu Chen was also a very good singer, but he was a Chinese. To choose to sing an English song on Aaron's talk show, and not his most familiar native language, it really required a lot of courage and confidence. Wasn't he afraid that he wouldn't sing well and be laughed at by others? But the experienced Aaron did not show any signs of abnormality. Instead, she smiled and applauded for Lu Chen. "I think this should be a very special song." Lu Chen said very seriously, "I want to use this song to pay tribute to my favorite, Evans Joyce. I want to thank him for his great works, which accompanied me through the most difficult years of my life." His words caused the audience to be stunned for a moment, and then there was a warm round of applause. Evans Joyce was the greatest folk singer in American history. He had released 5 albums in his life, and each album sold more than 35 million. His total sales reached 275 million, second only to the band Blue Sky. Evans's folk songs influenced an entire generation of Americans, and he was also one of the favorite foreign singers in the country. When Lu Chen was in college, he had listened to several of Evans's albums over and over again dozens of times. However, this great folk singer passed away in 2007 due to drug abuse. Chapter 7:23. Well, you only need the light when it's burning low, only miss the sun when it starts to snow, only know you love her when you let her go, only know you've been high when you're feeling low. When Lu Chen strummed the guitar strings and began to sing this song, the studio was very quiet. The audience, including the staff of the TV station and the host, Irene, were very curious about which song Lu Chen would choose to pay tribute to Evans Joyce, the greatest folk singer in the United States. Would it be "The Way Home"? Would it be "Towards the Distance"? Or "Wildflowers That Never Wither"? These songs were the most classic works of Evans Joyce. However, no one expected that Lu Chen would play and sing a song that they had never heard before. "Only when it's hazy and dim do I think of the light. Only when it's snowing do I miss the warmth of the sun. Only when I've let go do I know that it's true love. Only when I'm at the bottom do I think of the past." Listening to this charming folk song, the listener felt as if they were in a village bar, chatting with strangers about the girl they once loved and the past that had passed away. They suddenly found that there were people in the world who were in the same boat as themselves. That kind of sadness surged in their hearts like a tide. Until the glass was empty, they looked at each other drunkenly, and everything was in silence. Lu Chen's interpretation of this song was soft and soothing, with the calm feelings after letting go. He used a very special and delicate singing method to sing the theme of the work that love could not be recalled and ordinary life was the most precious. The melody of the song was beautiful with a touch of melancholy and sadness, with a touching appeal. Whether the audience had experienced the beauty of love or not, they would be deeply moved. At least, the audience present was moved. Some people were exclaiming softly, some people were thinking, some people couldn't believe it, and some people's eyes were red. "Only know you love her when you let her go." And you let her go, until Lu Chen finished singing the last sentence and put down the guitar in his arms. After a long time, people seemed to wake up from a dream, and the applause in the studio burst out fiercely. Aaron was the first to stand up and applaud Lu Chen. Everyone followed suit. "Thank you." Lu Chen stood up and bowed again to express his gratitude. The applause lasted for 2 minutes before it subsided. In the many episodes of Irene's talk show, such a scene was extremely rare. Irene bit her lips, her eyes flashing with a sparkling light. She used all her strength to calm herself down and asked Lu Chen, "Dawn, can you tell me the name of this song?" Lu Chen said, "This song is called Let Her Go." "Let Her Go." Aaron repeated the name of the song to herself and asked, "I've never heard this song before. Is it your original?" Lu Chen smiled and said, "It came from the memory of my dream." Aaron nodded. She opened her arms and gave Lu Chen a big hug and said emotionally, "Do you know? I'm Evan's most loyal fan, and he's my best friend. The biggest regret in my life is that I couldn't be by his side when he passed away. Thank you for this song, thank you for not forgetting him." Lu Chen really didn't know that Aaron and Joyce had a sincere friendship, but he could completely understand Aaron's feelings at this moment. "I also thank you for giving me the opportunity to sing this song." Applause sounded again. On the evening of the 20th, New York TV aired the latest episode of Irene's talk show, as scheduled. Because New York TV had given an advance notice, everyone knew that the guest of this episode of Irene's talk show was the hero who saved Flight UD 725, Lu Chin. Therefore, other than Aaron's loyal audience, countless people sat in front of their TVs to watch that night's program. Then it caused a huge reaction. For most adult Americans, Evans Joyce and his ballads were undoubtedly an indelible memory in their lives, accompanying them through countless lonely nights. Many people had the experience of driving on the long interstate highway and listening to Evans's songs on the radio, other than rock music. Evans Joyce had many more fans in the United States than Aaron. This year was the 10th anniversary of Evans's death, so Lu Chen's tribute to him, Let Her Go, naturally had a special meaning. Most importantly, the style of Let Her Go had a lot of similarities to Evans's, so much so that some people on Audiobook suspected that Lu Chin had obtained a piece of work that Evans had never published before. Of course, such speculation was ridiculous, and normal people would not believe it. But Lu Chen's performance of Let Her Go spread on social networks in the United States at the speed of light and quickly made it onto the Audiobook list. Then Evans Joyce's family expressed their gratitude to Lu Chen on Audiobook. Evans Joyce's life was full of ups and downs. He lost his father when he was very young, and his mother was locked up in the disciplinary center for drug abuse and theft. He grew up in a foster home, and he had a sister who was separated from him at a young age. He had 3 well-known relationships, but none of them were able to come to fruition. This was very deeply reflected in his songs, and it was also a painful memory in his life. The greatest folk singer in the history of the United States was unable to overcome himself and died of drug abuse. And Lu Chen's song, Let Her Go, undoubtedly awakened the fans' memories of Evans Joyce, as well as the sad and melancholy songs. In the latest episode of Irene's talk show, the scene of Irene holding Lu Chen with tears in her eyes after listening to this song also deeply touched the fans. Many singers in the American pop music industry have published articles in memory of Evans Joyce on their respective Audiobook, and at the same time expressed their love for Let Her Go. Without any recommendation, Let Her Go reached number 3 on the radio airplay chart on the 22nd, and the 1st to 7th place were all classic songs by Evans Joyce. As a result, hundreds of TV stations, newspapers, and magazines sent invitations to Lu Chen for programs and interviews. Another Evans Joyce fan organization hoped that Lu Chen could attend the memorial event to be held in November. In addition, several Hollywood film companies and record companies have contacted Chinfei Media. However, Lu Chen had no time to care about these disturbances. He stayed in New York for 5 days. After participating in the last business negotiation, he flew to Los Angeles with Chen Fei. Note: Let Her Go, lyricist/composer. Passenger, an English song that I like very much. Chapter 724. After more than half a year of preparation, coupled with more than 2 months of hard negotiations by Lee Mushy in the United States, the obstacles to the online crowdfunding listing on NASDAQ have basically been cleared, and the registration and approval process is about to enter. As the price of listing, Lee Mushy's shares will drop to 37.5%, and after listing, it will be further reduced to more than 30%, while Lu Chen's 10% shares will also drop to about 5%. However, once the online crowdfunding is successfully listed, Lu Chen's net worth will soar by tens of billions or even billions. After signing a contract memo, he confidently handed over the rest of the work to Wang Yan and Lee Mushy, and took Chinfei to Los Angeles from the east coast of the United States to the west coast. Los Angeles is located in the southwest of California, USA. It is the largest city in California, second only to New York in terms of population. It is known as the City of Angels, and is also known as the entertainment capital. The famous Hollywood is one of the symbols of Los Angeles. Los Angeles is also the last stop of Lu Chen's trip to the United States. He came to this entertainment capital mainly to inspect the top special effects production companies in Hollywood and pave the way for the future development of the special effects team of Chinfei Media. Hollywood's film industry is the best in the world. It has decades of accumulated experience in special effects production, and its strength is unrivaled. Because of its late start in this regard, although it has made great efforts to catch up, there is still a big gap. Like a Hollywood blockbuster, the investment in special effects production may be as high as hundreds of millions of dollars. For domestic film companies, it is an extremely difficult peak to surmount. High investment leads to high output. Hollywood's status in the industry is not just for show. In the northwestern suburbs of Los Angeles, there are dozens of special effects production companies and studios gathered on a piece of land of less than 10 square kilometers. And any second or third-rate studio is no worse than the team built by Chen-Fei Media with nearly $100 million investment. This is the gap in strength. Therefore, Lu Chen came here with a humble and serious attitude to learn. He will never be like some domestic filmmakers who spend money here to hire a team to produce special effects and then advertise the work with produced by Hollywood's top special effects team, only to be scolded in the end. In recent years, many Hollywood special effects teams have come to China to make money, but there has always been the problem of acclimatization. This was the most important reason why Lu Chen put all his effort into building a local team. Walking out of the passenger passage, Lu Chen immediately saw the signboard with his name on it, as well as the blonde girl who was holding it up. "Hello," he brought Chen-Fei forward and said, "I'm Lu Chen. Are you Miss Jenny?" The blonde girl in her 30s was stunned for a moment before she smiled warmly. "Yes, I'm Jenny. Mr. Lu Chen, nice to meet you. Welcome to Los Angeles. You can call me Dawn." Lu Chen shook her hand and introduced her to Chen-Fei. "This is my girlfriend Fei." Fei was the English name of Chen-Fei. This Miss Jenny was the junior of Li Cha, the chief special effects artist of DreamWorks Special Effects Studio, a subsidiary of Chen-Fei Media. She graduated from the University of Southern California and also worked in special effects production. She was currently working for a special effects production studio called Blue Sky Digital. And this Blue Sky Digital was the focus of Lu Chen's visit to Los Angeles. As for this Jenny, Richard had already contacted her a long time ago. She would be in charge of receiving Lu Chen. Jenny gave Chen-Fei a warm hug, then said to Lu Chen very seriously, "Dawn, you have a charming girlfriend. I swear, Fei is the most beautiful Asian woman I've ever seen." Chen-Fei pursed her lips and smiled happily. Her fame and popularity in China were no worse than Lu Chen's, but in the United States, not many people knew her. Even if they introduced her, they would only say that she was Lu Chen's girlfriend. Although Chen-Fei didn't mind, she still felt very happy to hear Jenny's praise. Lu Chen smiled and said, "Thank you, this is my luck." Jenny said, "You are a true hero. You deserve this kind of luck." Although this American chick wasn't very beautiful, her figure was quite good, and she was cheerful and enthusiastic, so they quickly got to know each other. Jenny drove a blue Toyota over and drove the two of them to downtown Los Angeles. As she drove, she asked, "Dawn, how long are you going to stay in Los Angeles?" Lu Chen replied, 2 days, no more than 3 days at most." Since Chen-Fei flew to the United States to accompany him, the filming of You from the Star in China had basically stopped. Whether it was the impact or the loss was not small, so he planned to go back as soon as possible. The impact of the UD-725 incident had basically subsided, and the FBI no longer restricted him from leaving the country. "That's a pity," Jenny said regretfully. "There are many fun places in Los Angeles. 2 or 3 days is not enough." Lu Chen smiled and said, "We will come again next time, and we will have to trouble you to be our tour guide." Jenny said, "Of course, it would be best if... How is Richard these days?" Lu Chen and Chen-Fei looked at each other and said, "He is very good. He is currently the chief special effects artist of our company." Jenny nodded, hesitated for a moment, and then asked, "Is he married now?" Sure enough, there was something going on. Lu Chen replied, "No, as far as I know, he has always been single." Jenny nodded and said, "I've never been to the capital before." Lu Chen smiled and said, "Then you can fly over when you have time. Fei and I will treat you to the most delicious food in the world." There was no doubt that Chinese cuisine had a place in the world. Jenny's attention was immediately diverted, and she turned to discuss Chinese cuisine with Lu Chen and Chen-Fei. They chatted and laughed along the way, and the Toyota smoothly arrived at the Hilton Hotel in downtown Los Angeles. The room had already been booked, so Lu Chen did not bother Jenny. He made an appointment with her to meet the next day, then dragged his luggage and checked into the luxury hotel chain with Chen Fei. Lu Chen also stayed at the Hilton Hotel in New York. He registered for a VIP membership, which allowed him to enjoy special treatment in Hilton hotels all over the world. After staying at the Hilton Hotel for one night, Jenny called his room at 9 o'clock the next morning. Lu Chen and Chen Fei had just finished breakfast, so they left the hotel to meet up with Jenny. They rushed to the location of the Blue Sky Digital Special Effects production studio and began their formal inspection. Chapter 725. In the northwestern suburbs of Los Angeles, in the Flushing Art Park. There were no high-rise buildings like in the city. 3- or 4-story, artsy buildings were hidden in the shade. The clean roads were wide and straight, giving off a sense of tranquility far away from the bustling city. However, this art park adjacent to Hollywood was an indispensable part of the American film industry. Dozens of special effects companies and studios were gathered here, and the annual output value was astonishing. The Blue Sky Digital Special Effects studio that Lu Chen was going to visit was one of the best. This special effects studio was very young. It had only been established for 5 years, but it had already participated in the special effects production of many Hollywood blockbusters. It had a passionate and energetic team. Moreover, the members of Blue Sky Special Effects were very young. The 3 co-founders, Mill, Andrew, and Christopher, were all graduates of the University of Southern California. The oldest was only 29 years old. It was for these reasons that Richard specifically recommended Blue Sky Special Effects to Lu Chen as a partner of Chen Fei Media, instead of other older but more powerful special effects companies. These older companies were often very arrogant. They liked to make money from the Chinese, but they were never willing to share their technology. Even if they were willing to sell some of their shares, they often asked for exorbitant prices. Blue Sky Special Effects was also currently facing financial problems. This studio did not have the problems of big companies, so it was undoubtedly a very suitable partner for Chen Fei Media. The only problem was that Blue Sky Special Effects was not well known in the industry. Not many people in the country knew its name, but Richard was sure of their standards. If it wasn't for the fact that Dream Workshop had just received an advertising assignment, Richard would have flown over in person. Jenny's car stopped in front of a 4-story building. The circular building was shaped like a flying saucer. The silver-gray glass curtain wall on the surface shone brightly under the sunlight. The monument erected in front of the entrance door was inlaid with a row of different company logos and names. Blue Sky Studio was located on the 3rd floor of this building. Under Jenny's guidance, Lu Chen and Chen Fei took the elevator to their destination. As soon as the elevator door opened, the camera flashes immediately lit up, shocking Lu Chen and the other 2. He saw a group of young men and women surrounding the elevator lobby. They were either holding SLR cameras or holding mobile phones. They looked like they were watching excitedly. "Mr. Lu Chen, welcome to our Blue Sky studio." A young man in a blue t-shirt and jeans took the lead and extended his hand to Lu Chen with a smile. As soon as Jenny stepped out of the elevator, she immediately introduced to Lu Chen, "This is Mill Joyce, the CEO of our studio." Lu Chen suddenly reached out and shook hands with the other party. "Nice to meet you, Mr. Mill Joyce." "Just call me Mir," Miller smiled and said, "They are all my colleagues. When they heard that you were coming, they all came out to welcome you." This was undoubtedly the effect of the hero's aura. Lu Chen smiled and said, "Hello." It didn't matter if Lu Chen greeted them, but the employees of the Blue Sky Studio immediately surrounded him like fans chasing after a star, asking for autographs, photos, and hugs. Then, they uploaded the photos to their respective books. Lu Chen did not expect these Americans to be so enthusiastic, but after all, he was used to such situations. He handled it with ease and satisfied their requests one by one, making the atmosphere very harmonious. This also showed that the Blue Sky Studio was different from other large companies. The atmosphere itself was more relaxed, and the boss and employees were more like close friends, rather than a strict hierarchy of superiors and subordinates. After a simple but warm welcome, Mill introduced several important members of the studio to Lu Chen, including his partner and chief special effects artist, Christopher. Christopher was a very shy young man. He was not tall, thin, and wore a pair of big black-rimmed glasses. His face was covered with acne, and he stuttered when he spoke. However, Richard respected Christopher very much. He told Lu Chen over the phone that this 25-year-old young man was definitely a genius in special effects production. Half of the value of the Blue Sky studio lay in him. Therefore, Lu Chen was very polite to Christopher, which made Christopher feel a little flattered. Accompanied by Mill, Christopher, and others, Lu Chen and Chen Fei visited the studio together. The scale of the Blue Sky studio was not very large, and the current number of employees was less than 200. It could not compare to a large company that easily had hundreds or thousands of employees. The rented business space was also on the small side, and the interior was quite crowded. However, the company's hardware standards were first class. The workstations used for special effects production were all new, and their computing power was very powerful. They also had the digital synthesis software ZPDT that they were proud of. This set of digital synthesis software was undoubtedly the core technology of the Blue Sky studio. It had been jointly developed by the three co-founders for a full 5 years, and it had been successfully used in the special effects production of many film and television works. It had won a very good response. Compared with the top software in the industry, ZPDT did not have any technical advantages. It was even lacking in detail processing and rendering effects. However, its advantages were that it was not difficult to learn, and it cost less to use. In other words, it was very cost-effective. Moreover, the Blue Sky studio also intended to further develop a more advanced version of ZPDT, but it lacked enough funds. At present, there were a lot of special effects production companies and studios in Hollywood, and the competition between them was very fierce. If a small company like the Blue Sky studio could not maintain continuous technological progress and win more business, the result would either be bankruptcy or be swallowed up by a large company. Obviously, the three founders did not want to see either of these two outcomes, so they urgently needed external investment. Meyerchen's enthusiasm for Lu Chen is not just because he is now a popular hero. Lu Chen was rich. The CEO of the Blue Sky studio had already learned about the strength of Chen Fei Media through Richard Cha. It was definitely a master who did not lack money, so he did his best to talk about his company's technical strength and bright future. To this end, he asked Christopher to demonstrate the special effects of the latest version 2.75 of ZPDT to Lu Chen. Not only that, but Mill also took Lu Chen to the only digital studio in the studio to let the latter personally experience the motion capture technology developed by the studio based on ZPDT. Chapter 726. Motion capture, or mocap for short, referred to the use of sensors, signal capture, data transmission, and data processing equipment to measure, track, and record the trajectory of an object in three-dimensional space, and finally establish the corresponding three-dimensional spatial coordinate data. This technology was first developed in the 1970s as a photographic image analysis tool in biomechanical research. As the technology gradually matured, it expanded to education, training, sports, computer animation, television, movies, video games, and other fields. In 2009, when America's most famous sci-fi director, Mike Cate, filmed the sci-fi blockbuster Starry Sky, the special effects CG was completed using motion capture technology throughout the entire process, achieving the perfect combination of motion capture technology in the film, making mocap a milestone in the film industry. Starry Sky was officially released in 2011, and the global box office exceeded $2 billion. It won 5 Academy Awards, as well as several Oscars for science and technology. Motion capture technology was indispensable. Since the success of Starry Sky, motion capture technology had become popular all over the world, and its development was extremely rapid. In terms of advanced technology, Hollywood special effects companies were absolutely unparalleled in the world. In the past few years, China had also introduced a full set of motion capture technology, But the domestic special effects company's mocap always had problems with stiff, unsmooth movements and poor details. There was a huge gap between the standards of Hollywood and mocap. Lu Qin had a certain understanding of mocap. This time in the United States, he was very concerned in this aspect, because in the big wuxia IP plan that he was going to create, it would inevitably involve a large number of motion capture technology, including movies, animation, games, and so on. Therefore, Miller's proposal was exactly what he wanted. Blue Sky Studios' mocap was not the best in the industry, but it had its own unique technology and patents. Compared to their counterparts in the United States, in addition to lagging behind in funds, technology, and personnel, the accumulation of technology research and technology patents was like heaven and earth. Small companies like Blue Sky Studio also invested a large amount of funds and manpower into technology research and development, forming their own advantages and patents. The digital studio it owned had an area of nearly 200 square meters and a height of 12 meters. It was transformed from the original open-air central garden of the building, and a large number of high-end equipment was concentrated in it. It was considered the studio's core asset. There were hundreds of optical cameras in the studio which could record the target 360 degrees without any blind spots, and it was also equipped with a 3D holographic scanning system. When Mill introduced them to Lu Qin, there was an indescribable pride in his voice. "We are the best." He asked his staff to send him a set of black clothes and said, "This is the FGK data suit that our studio has registered and patented. It has 277 high-precision sensors that can capture the slightest movement. Mr. Lu Qin, do you want to try?" Lu Qin nodded. He was really interested. Miller smiled and said, "Very good. I'll get everyone to prepare. Please put it on first." It was not easy to put on the data suit. With the help of two professionals in the changing room, it took Lu Qin 20 minutes to put it on. The size of the data suit could be adjusted, so it fit perfectly. Lu Qin tried it on, and his joints were very flexible. There was no sense of obstruction. It felt like he was wearing a set of close-fitting underwear. However, it looked very high-tech. Nearly 300 high-precision sensors flashed a faint blue light after they were powered on, creating a psychedelic visual effect. Under the guidance of the staff, Lu Qin came in front of a huge green screen. 3 digital cameras were aimed at him from different positions. Mill stood at the side of one of the cameras facing Lu Qin. There was also a row of computer screens in front of him. The CEO of Blue Sky Studio said aloud to Lu Qin, "Lu, you can play freely. Do whatever you like. Walk, run, jump, whatever you like." Lu Qin's understanding of motion capture technology was limited to the relevant information. This was the first time he had experienced the magic of this technology. After getting used to the data suit, he began to move. Lu Qin did not follow Mill's suggestion. Instead, he improvised a set of mountain-crushing fist. Mountain-crushing fist came from Mo Rant's memory in the dream world. This set of fist technique was not a traditional martial arts routine, but a military boxing technique passed down from ancient times. It was equivalent to ancient military boxing, fierce, and focused on actual combat effects. In the beginning, the speed of Lu Qin's moves was not fast. His punches and kicks were steady and strong. However, as the muscles and tendons of his body gradually became active, the speed of his punches and kicks increased, and the strength increased exponentially. Mountain-crushing fist, as the name suggested, was a fist that could shatter rocks and break mountains. Although it was impossible to truly shatter a mountain in reality, the emphasis on strength and momentum was the essence of this set of fist techniques. The mountain-crushing fist that Lu Qin performed undoubtedly brought this essence into full play. The fist blasted forward, and the wind howled and awe-inspiring. In the studio, there were more than 20 people from Blue Sky Studio. Everyone's attention was on Lu Qin. At first, they were puzzled and did not understand what Lu Qin was doing. Lu Qin's movements were neither boxing nor judo. Could it be a Chinese style of acrobatics? However, soon, the doubts, curiosity, and even mockery on their faces all turned into shock. Mill was dumbfounded. Even at a distance of 5 or 6 meters, he could clearly feel the power contained in Lu Qin's punches. Putting aside the unfamiliar feeling of novelty, Lu Chen's mountain-crushing fist also made him realize what was called the beauty of violence. Although there was no target opponent, Lu Chen's attacks were like a storm, making the onlookers feel suffocated and even tremble. This was because they could imagine themselves standing on the opposite side of Lu Chen, and what kind of harsh blows they would have to endure. This kind of instinctive awe stemmed from life's strong power made everyone hold their breath. The only thing that could be heard in the studio was the whistling sound of Lu Chen's fists and feet breaking through the air. The whistling sound was endless. Then, these Americans could not see Lu Chen's moves clearly. They only saw the shining light of the sensor on the data suit connecting into a faint blue light and shadow, dancing and circling in front of the green screen. Many people swore that this was one of the most incredible scenes they had ever seen in their lives. Chapter 727. Ever since the life-changing dream, Lu Chen began to practice martial arts every day. It gradually became a deep-rooted habit in his life. Usually, unless he encountered a very special situation, he would wake up every morning to practice martial arts to strengthen his body. Compared to 3 years ago, his physique was many times stronger, and his skills were getting more agile and sharp. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to dodge the bullets on Flight UD-725 and subdue a former elite member of the U.S. Marine Corps in one fell swoop. Now that he was wearing the data suit to practice the mountain-collapsing fist, it wasn't that Lu Chen was deliberately showing off. He needed to test his opponent's technical strength to determine if he should import it into China in the future to serve his wuxia IP plan. According to Lu Chen's plan, he would release a series of wuxia works in the next 10 years. Then he would create movies, long-form TV series, online games, mobile games, animated videos, and so on. Due to the uniqueness of the wuxia theme, motion capture technology would undoubtedly play a great role in it. Although in practical applications, actors or stunt doubles didn't need to be so fast, the more advanced the technology, the better the effect it could achieve. Therefore, when Lu Chen used his fists and kicks, he didn't hold back and went all out. This brought great shock to the Americans present. Even Chen Fei, who was the most familiar with Lu Chen, opened her eyes in surprise. She knew that Lu Chen was very good at martial arts, but she didn't expect it to be at such a high level. Lu Chen punched again, but his fist hit the air and made a loud explosion. His figure then stopped, as if time had frozen in that instant. After a while, he pulled back his fist. With a long breath, Lu Chen made an okay gesture to Miller, who was already dumbfounded, indicating that he was done. It was only after the other staff reminded him that Miller woke up from a dream. He said helplessly, "Huh? It's over? Okay, that's great, OMG." He couldn't even speak coherently. Lu Chen smiled and said to the staff next to him, "I'm going to change." Back in the locker room, he changed out of the high-tech data suit and put on his coat. The attitude of the 2 staff members who were in charge of assisting towards Lu Chen had obviously changed. Not only were they much more enthusiastic and considerate, but they even had a bit of worship and respect towards him. He really lived up to his reputation. When Lu Chen returned, Mil finally returned to normal. However, he was still very excited and asked eagerly, "Mr. Lu Chen, what skill did you just demonstrate? Was it a fighting skill from China?" More accurately speaking, combat techniques? Lu Chen explained, "You can call it China Kung Fu." He said the word Kung Fu in Chinese. Chinese Kung Fu. Miller repeated the words Lu Chen had just said, a little awkwardly. He nodded and gave a thumbs up. Good. He pulled Lu Chen to look at the monitor in front of them. The computer was playing back a full-angle ultra-high-definition video that had just been captured. It used slow motion to show Lu Chen's every move clearly. The image that was displayed on multiple monitors was quite shocking. And this was just the beginning. Christopher personally retrieved a 3D character model from the database and attached the data collected by mocap to it. After a simple rendering, this fantasy elf-shaped 3D character was given Lu Chen's movements. It was as if it was Lu Chen's incarnation, reenacting the mountain-crushing punch on the computer screen. Even though Lu Chen was not an expert, he could see the power of the Blue Sky Studios technology. The most important thing was that the movement was very smooth. There was no stiffness or pretentiousness in it. It was as natural as moving clouds and flowing water. Mill asked, "How was it?" Lu Chen gave him a thumbs up. "Good." Mill laughed loudly, looking very proud of himself. To be honest, after dealing with the elites of Wall Street in New York, Lu Chen liked Mill's character even more. He was simple and direct, not a playboy, and his thoughts were all on his face. He pointed to the screen and said, "This set of movements is more suitable for, strong characters." "Okay." Mill immediately asked Christopher to replace the elves with orcs, and then redo the rendering. It was the same CG character, but the burly, muscular orc was using the same mountain-crushing punch, but the effect of the aura was completely different. Christopher had even expertly added simple sound effects, and it could be used as a promotional video for a game movie. Lu Chen was very satisfied after watching it. He even had a series of ideas. Richard's recommendation was right. Blue Sky Studio was undoubtedly a suitable partner for Chenfei Media. Of course, he would not immediately decide how much he wanted to invest or anything else. The specific negotiations had to be done by real professionals. What Lu Chen wanted was to buy as many shares of Blue Sky Studio as possible and reach a more favorable agreement. After personally demonstrating Blue Sky Studio's mocap system, Lu Chen's inspection of the special effects studio was complete. They could now sit down and have a formal discussion. Mill warmly invited Lu Chen and Chenfei to have lunch together. The afternoon was not really a negotiation. At most, it was to state their intentions and requirements for cooperation. Mill represented Blue Sky Studio and was willing to sell up to 15% of the shares, and their offer was US $60 million. This meant that Mill valued his studio at US $400 million. Lu Chen did not express his position immediately. Instead, he said that he would carefully consider Blue Sky Studio's request and hire a professional to evaluate it before carrying out formal negotiations. Mill did not expect Lu Chen to agree immediately. Although he could see that Lu Chen was very interested and sincere, it involved tens of millions of dollars. Even a billionaire would be very cautious. The atmosphere of the conversation between the two sides was still very good. At the time of parting, Mill and Christopher were a little reluctant. Christopher suddenly said, "Mr. Lu Chen, can I upload the video of your Chinese Kung Fu that was shot in the studio today to Tbook?" His eyes were very eager. "I think it should be seen by everyone in the world." Lu Chen was stunned. After thinking about it, he nodded and said, "Sure. Thank you." Christopher was very happy. He impulsively gave Lu Chen a big hug. "Thank you." Lu Chen smiled and patted him on the shoulder. Compared to Mill, he had a better impression of this rather typical technology geek, so he agreed to the other party's request. Chapter 728. After completing the inspection of Blue Sky Studio, the next day, Lu Chen took Chenfei to Hollywood as an ordinary tourist to get a taste of the powerful American film industry. On October 27th, he and Chenfei took a Zhenmei Airlines flight back to China. Shortly after the plane took off, Blue Sky Studio's chief special effects artist, Christopher, posted a video on his personal Tbook account, which immediately caused a sensation on the world's largest social media site. The video was about 10 minutes long, and the content was a recording of Lu Chen demonstrating the mocap system in the studio of Blue Sky Studio a few days ago while wearing a data suit. From 3 minutes and 15 seconds onwards, Christopher attached a re-rendered orc CG and made a split-screen comparison with Lu Chen's demonstration. The title of the video was very simple, Chinese Kung Fu. Although Lu Chen's popularity on Tbook had declined significantly in the past few days, the UD-725 flight incident had become a thing of the past, and the follow-up impact was not great. Other than some veterans organizations that were still using this as a pretext, there were basically not many media outlets that continued to pay attention to him. But thanks to the influence of Irene's talk show, Lu Chen's name was still in the top 10 searches, so Christopher's video with keywords was quickly searched, and then spread like a virus on Tbook. Tbook. After watching the video, many American netizens first felt that it was unbelievable. OMG, is this for real? Brothers, don't be fooled. This is a special effects video with special effects. It's impossible to be that fast. This is not scientific. He must have turned on the video acceleration function. Don't forget, the host is a special effects artist. Chinese Kung Fu. I can only say that it's too amazing. It beats Taekwondo and boxing in seconds. The video is accelerated. Can't you see the time displayed on it? The magical Chinese, what they exclaimed and ridiculed was precisely the speed that Lu Chen displayed when he practiced the mountain-crushing fist. It was as swift and violent as a violent storm, causing people to be completely overwhelmed by it. Even the naked eye was unable to see the moves clearly. However, that kind of sharp power could still be clearly felt through the screen. This kind of combat technique that condensed skill, strength, and momentum gave people a great visual impact. Although it also belonged to the category of fighting, the beauty of that violence was truly breathtaking. If Lu Chen wasn't wearing a data suit but a samurai suit, the effect would be even stronger. Christopher might have realized this, so he added a comparison CG, perfectly presenting Lu Chen's mountain-crushing fist on the meticulously rendered CG orc warrior, giving the viewer a different visual impact. The comments on Tbook were more turbulent than the tide. Is this a movie or a game? No matter what it is, if it has such an effect, then I will definitely support it. It's really great. After watching this video, I want to learn Chinese Kung Fu. Can anyone teach me? I still can't believe it's real. Soon, professionals jumped out and said that according to their work experience, the video was completely real, without any editing or acceleration, especially the latter part, which was very important. At this time, the doubts turned into amazement. Some people compared the two videos of the UD-725 flight and Blue Sky Studio and thought that Lu Chen's skills and strength had indeed reached some kind of human limit, which was why he could create such an unbelievable miracle. In just 2 hours, Christopher's video had more than 1 million views, and the number of likes and forwards had reached hundreds of thousands. Chinese Kung Fu then appeared on the home page of Tbook. This was the first time the term Chinese Kung Fu appeared on the media and the internet. Then, it was known by everyone in the years to come and was included in the English dictionary. This term also had an inextricable connection with Lu Chen and had been firmly with him for life. As the video continued to be forwarded, the number of Christopher's Tbook fans soared by 100 times, and even Blue Sky Studio became famous. Many people Christopher or sent private messages to ask various questions about Lu Chen and Blue Sky Studio. Christopher was silent for a long time, then said through his personal Tbook that the video was absolutely real and did not answer the other questions. Interestingly, the netizens on Tbook quickly shifted the focus of the debate. They were no longer obsessed with the authenticity of the video, but instead discussed Lu Chen's Chinese Kung Fu, boxing or kickboxing, which was better. The United States accounted for 3 of the 5 major boxing organizations in the world, and the 2 major kickboxing professional competitions were also held in the United States. These 2 professional fighting competitions had countless audiences in the United States, and many well-known champion boxers in the United States emerged. In addition, Taekwondo, Judo, and so on also had a certain market size in the United States. As the saying goes, there is no first place in literature and no second place in martial arts. The question of which was better, boxing or kickboxing, had always existed. Although the two could not be directly compared because of the different rules, the discussion on the internet was in full swing. Now that Chinese Kung Fu had suddenly appeared, there was a clear difference between boxing and kickboxing, so it was inevitable that some people would compare them and the topic became very hot. As a result, 7 hours after Christopher's video was released, the defending champion of the AFS middleweight gold belt in the American Kickboxing Professional League, Jack Ross, posted on his Tbook, expressing his interest in having a spar with Lu Chen. Jack Ross had won the AFS middleweight gold belt 3 times in a row. The number of fans on Tbook was as high as 10 million, and he could be said to be famous in the United States. His challenge undoubtedly added a fierce fire to this debate. It burst into flames. While the social media in the United States was stirred up by Chinese Kung Fu, the flight that Lu Chen and Qin Fei took landed on the runway of the Capital International Airport. Home. Lu Chen's mood was completely relaxed. He had been in the United States for almost 10 days, experienced a mid-air crisis, then became a hero in the United States, and then appeared on Irene's talk show. It was really too exciting and colorful. However, in Lu Chen's heart, he did not like this kind of excitement and vanity. If he had a choice, he would rather complete this trip to the United States safely. Fortunately, he was accompanied by the person he loved the most. Perhaps after experiencing that dream, he was destined to not live a peaceful life. This was particularly felt when Lu Chen and Qin Fei walked out of the passenger passage together. Chapter 729. Click, click. The sound of the camera shutter was like rain hitting on a banana leaf, and the flash was blinding. Outside the exit of the passenger passage, there were countless reporters with all kinds of cameras that made people dumbfounded. Lu Chen and Qin Fei, who were walking among the returning passengers, were recognized as soon as they appeared. If the airport had not arranged a large number of security personnel to maintain order at the scene, the reporters would have swarmed over. Even so, they tried their best to put the microphone in front of Lu Chen and Qin Fei. Mr. Lu Chen, can you talk about your trip to the United States? How does it feel to be an American hero? Can you say a few words? Miss Qin Fei, what do you think? Lu Chen, Jack Ross challenged you. Will you accept it? Yes. Can you say a few words? Lu Chen had seen a lot of big scenes, but the scene in front of him still made his scalp tingle. If he had known this would happen, he would have taken the VIP passage. He did not expect these reporters to be so powerful. The information about his and Qin Fei's return flight was leaked. Not only did a large number of reporters come to the scene, but many fans came to pick them up. Under normal circumstances, Lu Chen would interact with these hard-working fans, sign autographs, take pictures with them, and so on. But today he really could not. There were too many people and it was too chaotic. It had a big impact on the order of the airport. So he could only apologetically wave to the fans who held up the support signs. He did not answer any questions from the reporters. Under the escort of several airport security personnel, he met up with Zhang Xiaofang, the assistant who came to pick him up, and left. Sitting in the back seat of the Mercedes-Benz, Lu Chen was finally relieved when the car drove out of the parking lot. Qin Fei wondered, I just heard someone say that Jack Ross challenged you. What's going on? She followed Lu Chen everywhere in the United States and never knew about this. Who was Jack Ross? But since the reporters asked, it was definitely not a trivial matter. Lu Chen shrugged. He was also baffled. Instead, Zhang Xiaofang, who was driving, said, Jack Ross is the AFS middleweight champion of the American Kickboxing Professional League. He has defended his golden belt 3 times. I've seen a lot of his competition videos. He's a very powerful person. Lu Chen frowned. I'm not playing AFS. Why is he challenging me? Zhang Xiaofang smiled and said, Boss, the Chinese Kung Fu that you filmed at Blue Sky Studio was uploaded online and caused a huge sensation in America. Then this golden belt came out to challenge you. So that's how it is. Lu Chen came to a sudden realization and laughed involuntarily. If I had known earlier, I wouldn't have agreed to Christopher's request. When he left after inspecting Blue Sky Studio, Christopher had made a request to upload the video. At that time, Lu Chen did not care about it, and also because he had a good impression of the chief special effects artist, so he casually agreed. He did not expect to provoke a challenge from an AFS golden belt. Lu Chen was no stranger to AFS. He had also watched the broadcast of the American Kickboxing Professional League on television and was very impressed by several famous players in it. Strictly speaking, kickboxing and kung fu had a lot in common. The rules were not much different. Jack Ross's challenge was not without reason. If it was a boxing golden belt who challenged him, it would be ridiculous. Zhang Xiaofang continued, now that it has spread to China, it's very noisy on the internet. Your blog has been flooded, and you can't even pick up Boss Lu's phone. You're on the plane, so you don't know. Lu Chen nodded. He spent most of his time resting on the return flight and did not turn on his phone. Of course, he did not know about these things. Although the distance between China and the United States was only about 10 hours, it was enough for a lot of things to happen. Zhang Xiaofang sighed and said, Boss, I found that you're getting better and better. I've also seen the 2 videos on the internet. I'm afraid that even 2 of me combined would not be your match. Lu Chen smiled and said, "Brother Zhang, you're too modest." Zhang Xiaofang was not an ordinary person. Although he was Lu Chen's assistant, he was actually a bodyguard. His skills were quite good. When he was free, Lu Chen had sparred with him several times. As they chatted and laughed, the car arrived at Zicheng. Zhang Xiaofang helped to send the bags of luggage that the two had brought back from the United States to their home. This time abroad, Qin Fei bought a lot of things in New York, such as bags, perfume, clothes, and so on. It could be considered a big satisfaction of his shopping desire. There were also a lot of gifts for his family and friends. Before leaving, Zhang Xiaofang could not help but ask, "Boss, will you accept Jack Ross' challenge?" He was actually a fan of Jack Ross. Lu Chen laughed, shook his head, and sent Zhang Xiaofang out of the house. His current identity was a singer, an actor, a screenwriter, not an athlete. He did not need to be in the limelight. Therefore, challenges and duels were too boring. Finally, "I'm home," he threw himself heavily on the soft sofa and said lazily, "Going abroad is so tiring." According to the habits of Chinese people, it was better to be at home than at home. Lu Chen felt the same way. Only when he was home could he really relax completely. Therefore, home was the harbor of the soul. He sat down on the sofa, stroked Qin Fei's hair and said, "Have a good rest. You have to shoot tomorrow. The shooting of You from the Star has been suspended because of the two of them." Ugh. Qin Fei grabbed a pillow and threw it on him. She said coquettishly, "You're so annoying. You just came back and you're talking about work. I don't want to shoot, I don't want to work, I don't want to do anything." Lu Chen laughed and said, Well, you can do whatever you want. That's all right, right?" Although Qin Fei was older than him, sometimes she was very childish, and he had to coax her to make her happy. Perhaps the two of them lived like this. Occasionally quarreling was also very sweet. He reached out and held Qin Fei in his arms. The two of them quietly enjoyed their own warm time. But good times were always short-lived. The sound of the key opening the door interrupted Lu Chen and Qin Fei's tenderness. Lu Shi came. The two of them quickly sat up straight. Lu Shi had the key to the house. Since she could not get through to Lu Chen's phone, she came to the door in person. "You two, why didn't you call when you came back? Sister is here to denounce us." Chapter 730. Lu Shi came over with a big basket of food and vegetables, and she had a lot of things she wanted to say. "Don't be so impulsive next time. Think about your family. If something happens to you, what will happen to us and Fei? Don't think that you're strong now." What made his sister angry was still the UD 725 incident. Although it had been more than 10 days, she still had a lingering fear. She grabbed Lu Chen's ear and scolded him endlessly, as if she would scold him for 3 days and 3 nights. Lu Chen smiled bitterly and could only let her scold him without daring to refute. But he didn't feel the slightest dissatisfaction or disgust in his heart. Instead, he deeply felt the deep sibling love that Lu Shi had for him, so he didn't feel uncomfortable listening to her. Instead, he felt a strong sense of warmth. Qin Fei watched with a smile on the side, without the slightest intention of dissuading her. Moreover, when Lucy's mouth was dry, she tacitly gave her a glass of water. She scolded Lu Chen for more than 10 minutes. At the end, her eyes were red, and she hugged Lu Chen. "Do you know how worried we were?" Lu Chen was speechless. After a while, he said, "Sister, I know. I won't let you worry about me anymore. This kind of thing happened by coincidence." Qin Fei said, "Yes, I don't know if he was lucky or unlucky, but he's really fine now." She nodded. She reached out to wipe the tears from the corners of her eyes and said, "Let's stop talking. I'll go cook for you." Qin Fei quickly got up and said, "Sister Lu Shi, I'll help you." The two went to the kitchen together. They had lunch at home. Although the dishes were not very sumptuous, Lu Shi's cooking skills were inherited by Fang Yun. With the love snacks made by Qin Fei, this lunch was undoubtedly delicious for Lu Chen. After dinner, Lu Shi left. Lu Chen and Qin Fei took their own showers. Qin Fei didn't sleep well on the plane, so he went to take a nap. Lu Chen was still in good spirits, so he ran to the study and turned on the computer. He hadn't been online for the past 2 days, so he didn't know much about the current trend of public opinion on the internet, so he had to pay attention to it. As soon as he logged into his blog account, Lu Chen was shocked. There were too many private messages and @s in the website, and the notifications from the system were terrifying. After spending a lot of effort, Lu Chen finally sorted out his thoughts. First of all, he finished watching the video that the fans had uploaded from Audiobook, which was the one that Christopher had personally made. It had caused a great sensation on both Audiobook and Wave's blogs. Watching the popular video with himself as the protagonist on the computer, Lu Chen felt that it was very interesting. Christopher's technology was very good, and he completed the CG in just a day or two. He couldn't help but like it. This also made Lu Chen firmly believe in the idea of cooperating with Blue Sky Studio. At present, for his big IP plan, special effects production was undoubtedly a weak link, because whether it was a martial arts movie, TV series, or games, it would inevitably involve a lot of CG special effects. Although DreamWorks Workshop had been established, it would take more time and more investment to really mature. Investing in Blue Sky Studio and pulling this first-class special effects team into the camp of Chen Fei Media would undoubtedly make up for the weakness in this area and help DreamWorks Workshop grow faster and better. Currently, Lu Chen's business assistant, Wang Yan, was negotiating with Blue Sky Studio in Los Angeles. With the help of Li Mushi, he believed that it was only a matter of time before they reached a cooperation agreement that both parties were satisfied with. After watching the video, Lu Chen turned his attention to Jack Ross again. To be honest, although he had watched the television broadcast of the American Kickboxing Professional League, he really didn't know much about the famous gold belt. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been so ignorant when Chen Fei asked. The chat with Zhang Xiaofang in the car earlier also aroused a lot of Lu Chen's interest. There was a lot of information about Jack Ross on the internet. After reading several articles about him, Lu Chen knew that the defending AFS middleweight champion was a very impressive figure. His father, Ross Sr., was a kickboxing player, but because of his mediocre talent, he did not achieve any decent results in his career. Then he pinned his hopes and dreams on his son. Jack Ross lived up to his father's expectations. He had shown outstanding talent in kickboxing since he was a child. He entered the professional arena at the age of 18 and had a 12-year history so far. He had won the middleweight gold belt 3 times in a row. His record was extremely impressive and he was one of the representative figures of AFS. Jack Ross also had a hobby, which was to challenge the top figures in other fighting events. He had fought with Taekwondo and Muay Thai masters and won all of them. It was precisely because of this that it was normal for him to challenge Lu Chen on Audiobook. It was not a deliberate hype or anything else. Jack Ross' motto was to constantly challenge himself and become the world's most powerful fighting master. On the Waves blog, Lu Chen's fans were clearly divided into 2 factions regarding Jack Ross' challenge. One faction supported Lu Chen's fight with Jack Ross. They believed that with the strength shown by Lu Chen, it would not be a problem to defeat the defending AFS middleweight champion. It would be best if he could snatch the opponent's gold belt. The other faction was far less optimistic. Jack Ross was a real professional player with 12 years of professional fighting experience. Although Lu Chen was very good, how could he compete with him? Most importantly, Lu Chen was a star. What was the point of competing with a professional player? As for snatching the gold belt, it was simply a joke. It was a complete layman's statement and not worth refuting. The 2 factions of fans were in full swing in the comments section of Lu Chen's blog. There was also a group of onlookers watching the show, making it a little messy. Seeing this situation, Lu Chen thought for a while and then wrote a new blog post. In this blog post, he first thanked his fans for their concern and said that he had just returned to China. He would soon be involved in the filming of You from the Star and try to catch up with the lagging progress. As for Jack Ross, Lu Chen admired his achievements in kickboxing. He was very honored by his challenge, but he would not consider it for the time being. Because the video Lu Chen shot at Blue Sky Studio was not to show off or anything else. It was to verify the key technology that would be applied to the martial arts movie, The Smiling, Proud Wanderer, which would start shooting at the end of the year. As soon as his response blog post was posted, it immediately caused a wide response on the Waves blog. Chapter 731. In just 3 years since his debut, Lu Chen has won a series of huge and indisputable successes in pop music, TV series and movies, and he himself has also been shrouded in a dazzling halo. He also has nicknames such as Genius Singer, Music Genius, Entertainment Gold Hand, and so on. Now, Lu Chen has been added with a new title, that is, Headline Superstar. Look at the attention that public opinion has paid to him in the past week or so. It can't be said that he is in the headlines every day, but in the entire entertainment industry, who is more dazzling than him? What makes people most speechless is that Lu Chen is not only in the headlines in China, but also in the headlines in the United States. It can be said that he is popular on both sides of the Pacific Ocean, from the east coast of the United States to the west coast, and has influence all over the world. The UD 725 flight incident, Irene's talk show, interview, Chinese Kung Fu. He is always creating new miracles. On Wave's blog, the number of Lu Chen's fans has exceeded the 80 million mark, and he has jumped to first place. Therefore, he now casually posts a blog post, and it will receive countless likes, reposts and comments, not to mention that the content of this blog post is quite informative. My chin is mighty. It's a pity. I wanted to see the blogger defeat the Americans. It's really childish to say that he will defeat the Americans. This kind of challenge doesn't need to be paid attention to. Lu Chen did the right thing. Support my chin, hurry up and shoot, You from the Star, I can't wait. I'm looking forward to Lu Chen's big movie. Among the messages left by fans, at least 90% were supportive of him, and a few expressed regret and disappointment. Of course, there were many who urged him to shoot TV series. During Lu Chen's absence from China, the original 2 episodes of You from the Star, broadcast by Beijing Television and Zhejiang Satellite TV, have been changed to 1 episode a week, and there will be no sequel after this week's broadcast. For fans of You from the Star, the interruption is simply unbearable, so they have complained on blogs, looking forward to Lu Chen resuming normal shooting work as soon as possible. Now they finally got their wish. The second day after returning to Beijing, the shooting of Xingyu Crew in Huairou Film and Television City returned to normal. Lu Chen and Chen Fei are put in a lot of enthusiasm to make up for the lagging progress. Although it had been interrupted for more than 10 days, there were no problems with the crew under the supervision of Fang Hui. In addition, the 2 protagonists were in excellent condition, so today's shooting went very smoothly. From morning to afternoon, they had actually completed almost half an episode of filming. In the indoor studio specially built for Xingyu, Fang Hui stood up, clapped her hands, and said with a smile, "That's it for today. Thank you for your hard work." As the director, Fang Hui was, of course, the happiest. If all the actors and staff could keep working as they did today, her task would be much easier. During this time, Lu Chen had been in the limelight in the United States, but she was under pressure from 2 TV stations. They didn't dare to rush Lu Chen, so they could only find a balance from her. The main reason was that You, the Star, was too popular. Its ratings were breaking records, and the advertising fees of the TV stations were rising. If it was suddenly interrupted, the loss would be too great. Fortunately, Lu Chen and Chen Fei came back together. Otherwise, Fang Hui would have wanted to use crooked ways to make up for the progress. "I didn't expect you 2 to go to the United States," she said to the 2 of them with a smile. "Not only did your acting not fall behind, but it also improved." Fang Hui was not deliberately flattering them. What she said was completely sincere. Lu Chen and Chen Fei's performance today was great. Lu Chen said with a smile, "Sister Fang, it's been hard on you. And I will treat you to dinner tonight." Fang Hui shook her head and said, "It's not hard on me. Everyone has worked hard." Chen Fei interrupted, "Then we'll treat everyone to dinner. Let's go to Fengyuan Restaurant and have a good meal." Fengyuan Restaurant was a restaurant in Huairou Film and Television City. In addition to providing filming locations, it also received actors, stars, and foreign tourists who came to film. It was the highest grade in the film and television base. There were at least 100 staff members of You, the Star, present today. Chen Fei's words easily spilled at least tens of thousands of yuan. Fang Hui said with a smile, since the two of you are treating together, then we won't stand on ceremony." Before she finished speaking, the crew members who had heard her cheered, and their morale soared. In fact, everyone could afford a few hundred yuan per person for a meal, but compared to some stingy stars, Lu Chen and Chen Fei were really generous. It was very comfortable to work for them. "Brother Chen." At this time, an assistant rushed in and said to Lu Chen, "Two people from CCTV just came over. They said they have something very important to talk to you about." "People from CCTV?" Lu Chen and Chen Fei were stunned. If CCTV wanted to talk to Lu Chen, the normal channel would be to contact Chen Fei Media first and finalize the time and place of the meeting through Lu Chen's agent. Why would they suddenly come to the film set? Lu Chen thought for a moment and said, "Then invite them to Fengyuan Restaurant." In the private room of Fengyuan Restaurant, Lu Chen met the two people from CCTV. The man and woman were both in their 30s. After introducing each other, Lu Chen found out that the two were not real people from CCTV, but the assistants of the famous director Chen Guoji. But they were not using the name of CCTV to fool people, because Chen Guoji was the executive director of the 2018 Spring Festival Gala. The two of them served the Spring Festival Gala production team and were ordered to come and talk to Lu Chen. Chen Guoji was a famous director in the country. This director, who was born in the 60s, had won the Berlin Golden Bear Award, and one of his works was nominated for the Academy Award for Best Foreign Language Film. He was also famous both at home and abroad because of his many realistic films. In recent years, Chen Guoji had switched to commercial blockbusters and made 2 blockbusters with a box office of more than 1 billion. He had a very high status in the industry and was a real big shot. This time, CCTV specially invited Chen Guoji to be the director of the 2018 Spring Festival Gala. It was also because the ratings and reputation of the Spring Festival Gala had been declining in the past few years. They hoped to use this great director to turn the tide. The 2 assistants sent by Chen Guoji also looked for Chen Fei Media first before coming to the film set. After all, the 2 of them had different identities, so there was not much to pay attention to. As for the content of their discussion with Lu Chen, it was very simple. Chen Guoji intended to invite Lu Chen to participate in the Year of the Dog Gala. Chapter 732. "You've been in the limelight too much lately. Back at home in Zicheng Chen Fei said to Lu Chen with a smile. "It's hard not to notice. It's reasonable that Chen Guoji invited you to appear on Central TV's Spring Festival Gala, but it's rare to see him invite you to a show." Central TV's Spring Festival Gala had been held for more than 30 years. Watching the Spring Festival Gala on New Year's Eve had become one of the customs of the Chinese people. Especially for the middle-aged and elderly, not being able to watch the Spring Festival Gala on New Year's Eve was a great regret. Up until now, the Spring Festival Gala's viewership ratings had never been lower than 80%. Its influence was incomparable to that of any other program. More than 30 Spring Festival Galas had also made batch after batch of celebrities popular. It was precisely because of this that not many celebrities could resist the temptation of appearing on the Spring Festival Gala. Every year, when the Spring Festival Gala's program list was released, it meant that there was a lot of competition in the early stages. Many celebrities who were ambitious and qualified to get involved in the Spring Festival Gala would often rack their brains to think of ways to appear on the Spring Festival Gala. If they could have their own program, that would represent the greatest success. For Chen Fei, who had already appeared on the Spring Festival Gala twice, the temptation of the Spring Festival Gala was not that great. Moreover, it was very difficult to appear on the Spring Festival Gala 3 times. He had to give others a chance, right? Since Lu Chen's debut, he had never appeared on the Spring Festival Gala before. Although he had displayed a strong performance right from the start and had achieved great success in the music and showbiz circles, he lacked a strong background and did not put in a lot of effort into his public relations, so how could Central TV possibly take the initiative to approach him? But this year's situation is completely different. Lu Chen's popularity in China has been so high that it can't be ignored. As the most outstanding young singer in the Chinese music industry, and has repeatedly created miracles in movies and TV series, CCTV can no longer ignore him. That would mean offending tens of millions of Lu Chen's fans, a huge group of young viewers. Coupled with the recent series of events that happened to Lu Qin in the United States, Central Television made a decision. Of course, the stately Central TV had its own considerations, which was why Chen Guoji's two assistants came to look for Lu Qin. Since they could represent Central TV to a certain extent, it could also be said that it was under Chen Guoji's instructions. Furthermore, this was only the preliminary contact, so they could advance or retreat as they pleased. Chen Guoji definitely has his own ideas. Chen Fei spoke with fervor and assurance. The viewership ratings of the Spring Festival Gala 2 years ago and last year almost hit the red line of 80%. Central TV is definitely hoping that director Chen can salvage the situation, so he will definitely have to make some changes to the traditional Spring Festival Gala programs. Otherwise, if it's still the same old programs, the audience won't buy it either. Lu Chen nodded. Chen Fei's analysis of Central TV, the Spring Festival Gala, and director Chen Guoji was very accurate. In the early years, Central TV's Spring Festival Gala was the highlight of the general public's New Year's Eve. The viewership ratings were so high that it was envied by many, easily reaching above 95%. But in recent years, with the rapid rise of local satellite television stations and the diversification of entertainment methods, especially the prosperity of new online media, the Spring Festival Gala's viewership ratings have been declining year by year. In addition to the younger audience having more entertainment options, the most important reason was the Spring Festival Gala itself. It lacked good creativity and concept, and there were too many familiar faces coming and going. The quality of the language programs had seriously deteriorated, and the singing and dancing programs stuck to the old conventions, causing the audience to experience aesthetic fatigue. Under such circumstances, Central TV really had no choice but to invite a great director like Chen Guoji. A few years ago, when the Spring Festival Gala was still being broadcast, there were already endless complaints and scoldings online, so it was very difficult for them to pretend that they did not see it. Even many media outlets joined in the ridicule, and Central TV's reputation was tarnished. This time, when Chen Guoji's two assistants looked for Lu Qin, they had two main intentions. First, they wanted to invite Lu Qin to participate in the Year of the Dog's Spring Festival Gala. As long as he agreed, his name would definitely be on the final program list. This was actually a very great honor. One had to know that many celebrities had been dying to get such an honor, but Lu Qin had easily obtained it. Moreover, it was the Spring Festival Gala's director who took the initiative to send people to him. The treatment was extraordinary. Chen Guoji's other intention was to hope that Lu Qin could come up with a plan for the Spring Festival Gala and provide good suggestions and ideas. This idea was not something he came up with on a whim. Not to mention Lu Qin's talent in the field of original music, his film and television scriptwriting ability was even more impressive. So far, one of Lu Qin's movies and 3 television series were all his own creations. Even the novels adapted from the television series sold very well. If Chen Guoji wanted to recover the declining viewership of the Spring Festival Gala, it was undoubtedly far from enough to rely on his own ideas. What he needed was to brainstorm, which was why he revealed his intentions to Lu Qin. In this regard, Lu Qin's reply to Chen Guoji's 2 assistants was that he needed to consider it carefully. Now, he wanted to hear Chen Fei's opinion. Chen Fei leaned comfortably in Lu Qin's arms and seriously gave him advice. First of all, we can't refuse the Spring Festival Gala, and there is no need to refuse. The key lies in the program. An exclusive singing program is necessary, and you need to strive for it. Group singing or continuous singing is meaningless, and it doesn't match your current popularity and status. In addition, it is important to build a good relationship with Chen Guoji. She turned to look at Lu Qin. Our company is going to shoot The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer at the end of the year, right? If we can invite Chen Guoji to be the director, that would be the best. Invite Chen Guoji to be the director of The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer? Lu Qin's eyes lit up. This idea was undoubtedly very bold and courageous. There was no doubt that Chen Guoji was a good director, and he had international influence. In recent years, he had changed his direction to a blockbuster. If Chen Fei Media could reach an agreement with this famous director, the box office of The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer would undoubtedly be greatly boosted. But there was a problem. He is now the director of the Spring Festival Gala. I'm afraid he won't have time to direct the proud wanderer at the end of the year, right? Chen Fei smiled. If we can reach an agreement, what's the problem if we delay it until after the new year? We can totally release the proud wanderer in the summer of 2018. That's right. Lu Chen was completely convinced. He couldn't help kissing Chen Fei's face. I will listen to you, my wife. Don't be too optimistic. Chen Fei rolled her eyes at Lu Chen and said, it is not easy to invite Chen Guoji. You don't know how many people are waiting in front of his house with boxes full of money. You have to show your sincerity. For example, in this year's Spring Festival Gala, I see, Lu Chen couldn't help but fall into deep thought. He really had some ideas. Chapter 733. The official meeting between Lu Chen and Chen Guoji would take place 7 days later at a private clubhouse in Beijing. This clubhouse had a long history and had many members from the business and entertainment circles. It was considered one of the best in Beijing, where there were many crouching tigers and hidden dragons. The environment and privacy were excellent. In order to meet with Lu Chen, Chen Guoji had specially booked a private room, which fully showed the importance of this great director to Lu Chen. There were only 4 people from both sides meeting. Lu Chen brought Chen Fei, and Chen Guoji brought his assistant. Chen Guoji was in his 50s this year. He was very thin and short. He didn't have much flesh on his face, so his cheekbones were high, but his eyes were bright and full of expression. His appearance was very distinctive. After meeting and greeting each other, everyone sat down together. Chen Guoji said with a smile, Miss Chen Fei is getting more and more beautiful. It should be the magic of love. The great director actually made a joke with Chen Fei, which immediately made the atmosphere in the private room relaxed. Chen Fei pursed her lips and smiled. Thank you for your compliment. You are also getting younger. She had worked with Chen Guoji before and had a cameo role in one of the latter's movies. But speaking of which, the two sides hadn't seen each other for several years. The entertainment circle wasn't big. Some people could bump into it every day, but it wasn't small either. It was bustling with people coming and going, and it had an iron camp and flowing soldiers. In response to Chen Fei's slightly teasing response, Director Chen stroked his sparse hair and said with a wry smile, I'm old. My romantic life will always be blown away by the wind and rain. Now it's the world of you young people. He looked at Lu Chen and said, Lu Chen, well, is it okay if I call you Xiao Lu? Lu Chen smiled and said, Director Chen, it's my honor. Lu Chen wasn't being polite. He also admired this great director very much. He was a true great senior. Chen Guoji nodded and said, Xiao Lu, I know your time is precious, and I'm also very busy. Let's skip the pleasantries and get straight to the point. Lu Chen hurriedly straightened his back. Go ahead. Chen Guoji said bluntly, I won't hide it from you. After taking on the Central TV Spring Festival Gala, I'm under a lot of pressure. I'm just afraid that the audience won't be satisfied with the final performance. The budget for next year's Spring Festival Gala is about 300 million renminbi. Although it can be earned back through the advertising bids, the people are not satisfied with it. They are cursing on Lunar New Year's Eve. Don't you think that 300 million renminbi is a waste? Do I have any responsibility as the director? Lu Chen listened quietly, feeling rather emotional. He didn't know much about the Spring Festival Gala, but he knew a little about it. The cost of Central TV's Spring Festival Gala was getting higher and higher, but the viewership ratings were dropping year by year. There were many voices of criticism on the internet, saying that hosting the Spring Festival Gala was a complete waste of the people's hard-earned money. Such a statement was, of course, too extreme. After all, the current Spring Festival Gala was largely run on a commercial model. It wasn't completed by the government's budget, and it had even achieved huge profits. But the big drop in the reputation of the Spring Festival Gala was an indisputable fact. The audience's aesthetic needs were constantly increasing, and Chen Guoji, who had taken on this responsibility, naturally felt a lot of pressure. And he didn't hide this point at all. Currently, there are about 500 to 600 performances that have been submitted. I've seen more than half of them, but no more than 5 of them caught my eye. Actually, there was something else Chen Guoji didn't say. That was, as the director of the Spring Festival Gala, he did not have full authority to choose the performances. This was because there were too many people eyeing this area, and it would affect the interests of all parties involved. Chen Guoji's intention was to try his best to get as many high-quality performances on the Spring Festival Gala as possible within the scope of his authority, so that the ordinary audience would be satisfied and happy to watch it. However, it was really not easy to achieve this. Xiao Lu, Chen Guoji said very sincerely to Lu Chen, "I've heard a lot of your pop music works. In my opinion, you're currently the best singer and composer in the country, so I hope that you can specially write a song for the Spring Festival Gala. As for the form of the work, it's entirely up to you to decide." In fact, Chen Guoji had already expressed his intentions to Lu Chen in advance through his assistant. Now that he said it again, it was undoubtedly to emphasize the importance and trust he placed on Lu Chen. It must be known that Lu Chen and Chen Guoji did not know each other at all. The two of them had never had any contact with each other. This kind of importance and trust was very valuable, especially when it was placed on the big stage of Central TV's Spring Festival Gala that was watched by hundreds of millions of people. This made even Lu Chen feel the pressure. He and Chen Fei looked at each other, and the latter smiled and nodded. Lu Chen took a deep breath and said, "Director Chen, thank you for your kindness. In fact, I also prepared 2 works for you this time. Please guide me." As soon as his voice fell, Chen Fei took out a professional portable music player with headphones and 2 bound music scores from his bag. They were placed in front of Chen Guoji. Looking at the player and the music scores in front of him, Chen Guoji was really surprised. He did not expect that Lu Chen would be so well prepared. He actually brought his works directly. And it was 2 works. After all, he was a young man. Apart from being surprised, Director Chen felt a little uncomfortable in his heart, because he felt that Lu Chen was probably famous at a young age. In addition, he had been in the limelight recently, so his performance was a little impetuous. This was a program that was going to be on the Spring Festival Gala, and he attached so much importance to it. Lu Chen actually used a week to write 2 works and put them in front of him. Even if he was a real genius, could he guarantee the quality that matched the Spring Festival Gala? Of course, on the surface, Chen Guoji just showed an appropriate look of surprise, and then said with a smile, "Then I really want to listen carefully." He picked up the headphones and music scores, and asked his assistant to help him turn on the player. He began to listen to the works brought by Lu Chen on the spot. When he first listened to the first song, Chen Guoji was very disapproving. But when he heard the first sentence of this song, his expression changed. He became dignified and serious, and there was a little surprise that couldn't be hidden. Then as he listened deeper, his surprise continued to expand, and he even closed his eyes. After the song finished, Chen Guoji suddenly opened his eyes. He first pressed the pause button on the player, and then he couldn't wait to take off the headphones and asked Lu Chen, "This song, did you really write it specifically for the Spring Festival Gala?" Lu Chen smiled and said, "Yes, Director Chen. Both songs were specially written by him for the Spring Festival Gala." Just as Chen Fei said, since he wanted to do a favor, he had to do it properly. Moreover, he had not only prepared 2 music works. Chapter 734. Very good. For Lu Chen's first work, Chen Guoji was not stingy with his praises. "It's very good." When he picked up the headphones, he did not have much expectation. He was even a little disgusted. But after listening to the song, the great director's attitude was completely different. He gave a heartfelt praise. Although Chen Guoji was a film director, his appreciation of music was not low at all. In his films, he had always attached great importance to the soundtrack, so he could naturally judge the value of a song. Chen Guoji's assistant, who was sitting at the side, was very surprised because Chen Guoji rarely gave such high praise. Moreover, he was not very interested in the current younger generation of celebrity idols. It was already very rare to get a "not bad" evaluation from him. At Chen Guoji's status and level, he did not need to flatter Lu Chen at all, even if the latter was the most popular star artist in the country. Therefore, his praise was full of gold. To put it bluntly, if these 2 sentences were spread out, it would be enough to be on the front page of the entertainment section of many media outlets. Lu Chen said modestly, "Thank you for your praise, Director Chen." Chen Fei secretly gave him a thumbs up. Chen Guiji's praise for Lu Chen made her feel honored. Chen Guiji waved his hand and said excitedly, "Let me listen to the second song." He put on the headphones again and pressed the play button on the music player. 5 minutes later, after listening to the second song, Chen Guiji unexpectedly fell into silence. He seemed to be thinking about a very profound question and did not speak for a long time. Fortunately, everyone was patient enough and waited quietly. After a long time, the great director let out a long sigh and said, "I'm very conflicted right now." Lu Chen and Chen Fei couldn't help but look at each other. Chen Guiji continued, "These two songs are really too good. I don't know which one to choose for the Spring Festival Gala. You should know that in principle, a star can only participate in one show on the Spring Festival Gala." As the world's highest-rated and most-watched large-scale variety show, there was no doubt about the influence of Central TV's Spring Festival Gala. In particular, it made program resources exceptionally precious. There were too many programs that wanted to be part of the Spring Festival Gala. The programs selected by a local government often had to go through many trials and pay a very high price to finally be able to make it onto the stage that everyone was watching. As for the influence of the Spring Festival Gala on the celebrities, it was needless to say. Therefore, the Spring Festival Gala had a tacit rule that a celebrity could only participate in one show. Otherwise, it would be too hateful. Now that Lu Chen had brought two songs, of course, he had to participate in his work, otherwise, it would be unreasonable. Chen Guiji liked both songs very much. They couldn't possibly let Lu Chen go on two shows in a row, right? That would be breaking the rules. Although he held considerable authority as the executive director of the Spring Festival Gala, it was not a good precedent to set. That was why he felt conflicted. Understanding Chen Guiji's thoughts, Lu Chen suddenly smiled. "Director Chen, you don't have to be conflicted. I just want to participate in the first song. As for the second song, I'm willing to give the copyright to Central TV's Spring Festival Gala for free." He only took 2 days to compose these two works and then recorded a demo in Chenfei Media's recording studio. Chen Guiji had a copy of the demo in his hand. Lu Chen had discussed it with Chen Fei before, so he knew the rules of the Spring Festival Gala. Therefore, he had never thought that he would have to go on two shows. The second song was used as a favor. Whether it was given to Central TV or to Chen Guiji, it was very worth it. The copyright to Central TV's Spring Festival Gala for free? Chen Guiji's thoughts were immediately led astray. His eyes suddenly lit up and he clapped his hands. Not bad, the second song is actually more suitable for bel canto singing. It's very good as the finale. The way he looked at Lu Chen changed. "Xiao Lu, you're really good." Chen Guiji had seen many young celebrities, but it was really rare to see a young celebrity like Lu Chen who was talented and knew his limits. He was indescribably satisfied. He had really made the right decision this time. Chen Guiji's assistant was taken aback. He wanted to complain. "Boss, is it really okay for you to praise me like this?" Chen Guiji's appreciation for Lu Chen was completely shown on his face. "Well, since the first song is a group singing," Director Chen pointed to Lu Chen and Chen Fei respectively, "then you two can do it together." Chen Guiji's suggestion was completely unexpected by Lu Chen and Chen Fei. Chen Fei said with a wry smile, "Director Chen, I've been on the Spring Festival Gala twice." In the pop music world, although she was not the only female singer who had been on the Spring Festival Gala twice, there were really very few. As for those who had been on the Spring Festival Gala 3 times, there was no one. And non-pop singers had been on the Spring Festival Gala 10 times. They could be called the real evergreen of the Spring Festival Gala. For Chen Fei, the temptation of the Spring Festival Gala was not too great, but it was another matter to be with Lu Chen, so it was definitely a lie to say that she was not tempted. Chen Guiji smiled and said, "What's wrong with being on the Spring Festival Gala twice? I remember that the last time you were on the Spring Festival Gala was 13 years ago. It's been 5 years. There's no problem at all." He took 2 of Lu Chen's songs and could only give Lu Chen a performance, so he had the idea of making up for it. It just so happened that Chen Fei was there, and the first song was a group singing, so he simply pushed the boat along with the current. Chen Fei thought for a moment and said decisively, "Thank you, Director Chen." Since Chen Guoji had said so much, it would be too pretentious to refuse. Chen Guoji laughed and said, "You're welcome. If you want to thank someone, you should thank your boyfriend." Chen Fei couldn't help but turn her head to look at Lu Chen. Her eyes were full of tenderness and sweetness. Lu Chen smiled and reached out to hold her little hand. After Chen Guoji finished his big move, he had no intention of letting Lu Chen go. He asked, "Xiao Lu, do you have any good suggestions or ideas for the Spring Festival Gala of the Year of the Dog? Just let me know." He found Lu Chen pleasing to the eye and also had the idea of brainstorming. In fact, he had already gained a lot by receiving 2 excellent original works. Chen Guoji asked casually, but to his surprise, Lu Chen actually had a trick up his sleeve. He asked Chen Fei to take out another piece of paper. "There's a song." Chen Guoji was really surprised. "No way?" Lu Chen shook his head and said, "It's not a song. Director Chen, please take a look first." With a trace of confusion, Chen Guoji took the piece of paper handed over by Chen Fei. He only took one look and his eyes were a little dazed. What Lu Chen took out again was really not a song score, but a skit script. Chapter 735. It was actually a skit script. Chen Guoji held the thin manuscript in his hand and looked at the author's name under the title, completely speechless. Previously, when Lu Chen took out 2 original works, although he felt that Lu Chen was a little impetuous, he did not think it was unreasonable. After all, Lu Chen's talent in music was well known, and it was normal for him to release a song in a few days. But now, Lu Chen took out a skit script. Changing from pop music to skit, wasn't this a little too big of a leap? Chen Guoji suddenly felt his throat itch and wanted to cough a few times to express his feelings at the moment. But because of the precedent, he forced himself to endure it and continued to watch seriously. This great director was even a little unconvinced in his heart. "I know that Lu Chen is very capable. I'm convinced by your 2 works, but not everyone can create a skit, especially a skit on the Spring Festival Gala. It's too exaggerated to say that it's 1 in 1,000, it's not even 1 in 100. At domestic galas, language programs mainly referred to skits, crosstalk, etc. There were also recitations, allegro, 3½ sentences, tongue twisters, speed recitals, burlesque, and other folk art programs. Musical poetry recitations were more common, and there were also some musical sitcoms. But on the stage of the Spring Festival Gala, when people talked about language programs, it was basically crosstalk and skit. Since the beginning of the CCTV Spring Festival Gala in the early 1980s, crosstalk and skit had always been the most popular programs loved by the general public. A group of excellent crosstalk and skit performers also emerged on the stage of the Spring Festival Gala, including many classic language programs such as the crosstalk, Sales, New Year's Eve, City God's Temple, skits, Go to the Market, Tomorrow Will Be Better, etc., were still often watched by people today. However, with the improvement of the aesthetic standards of hundreds of millions of viewers, the quality of crosstalk and skit was declining year by year. Coupled with some policy reasons and economic factors, the creators of language programs generally had problems such as a lack of creativity, rigid thinking, and so on. Many crosstalk and skit relied on online jokes to make up the number. The result was that the audience was not satisfied and the reviews were very bad, which in turn affected the ratings of the Spring Festival Gala. This vicious cycle was getting worse and worse. The program selection for the 2018 Spring Festival Gala had actually started this summer. But so far, Chen Guoji had only selected 1 program for the language category. Furthermore, it was a traditional crosstalk. It wasn't that he was too picky, but that most of the crosstalk and skits that were submitted for approval had problems of one kind or another. It made Chen Guoji pinch his nose and unable to pass it. After watching so many boring skits, it was normal for Chen Guoji to lose hope in Lu Chen's script. However, he couldn't embarrass Lu Chen. After all, Lu Chen had just given him 2 excellent works. But the same situation happened again. After reading only 200 or 300 words, Chen Guoji's eyes couldn't leave the script. He couldn't help but straighten his back, his left hand unconsciously rubbing the teacup. His eyebrows were tightly furrowed, and he looked extremely serious. "Ha, But the next moment, great director Chen's tensed face suddenly bloomed into a smile from the bottom of his heart. He couldn't help but laugh out loud, almost knocking over the teacup in his hand. Director Chen, the assistant sitting next to him, was startled, thinking that something had happened. Chen Guoji waved his hand to signal the other party to calm down. "It's nothing. It's just that the jokes in this script are well written." He couldn't help but look up at Lu Chen, his eyes showing undisguised appreciation. He had still underestimated it. Great director Chen was quite emotional. He had seen so many skit scripts, and Lu Chen's script was definitely outstanding. If it didn't use any online jokes, it would be the most outstanding. First of all, the plot was not vulgar or kitsch, nor was it a high and mighty preaching example. The language was simple and vivid, but it was very interesting. Most importantly, it did not involve sensitive social or political topics. What was a good skit? This was the best skit. Would Lu Chen plagiarize? Chen Guoji immediately rejected this idea. With the development of the internet and powerful search engines, plagiarists basically had nowhere to hide. It was too easy to be exposed. Of course, Lu Chen had the confidence to hand over the script to him so confidently. Instead of suspecting that he plagiarized online jokes, it was more reliable to suspect that he had a mastermind behind the scenes. Did Lu Chen need a mastermind? There was no need at all, because Lu Chen didn't need this kind of fame to support himself. He had become the most popular young artist in the country with his singing and acting. It didn't matter if he had more or less honor. The ways of the world were sinister and unpredictable. Chen Guoji was not afraid to speculate on others with the worst of intentions, but the young man sitting in front of him was extraordinary. He was handsome, confident, sunny, and had a convincing temperament and charm. At this time, Chen Guoji remembered that Lu Chen's movies and TV series were all written by him. There was no longer a trace of doubt in his heart. He lowered his head and continued to read the script in his hand. It took a full 15 minutes for Chen Guoji to finish reading the entire script. During this time, he laughed a total of 5 times. Except for the first few minutes, he was smiling the whole time. This time, even his assistant was conquered by Lu Chen. This was because the assistant had accompanied Chen Guoji to review the skit scripts more than once or twice. He had seen all kinds of disgust, and impatience with those works, but he had never seen a script that could make him so happy. After reading it, Chen Guoji let out a long sigh of relief. He waved the manuscript in his hand and asked with a smile, "Xiao Lu, are you also planning to transfer the skit script to the Spring Festival Gala for free?" Chen Guoji knew very well that it was impossible for Lu Chen to ask him to act in this skit. First of all, the setting was wrong. Lu Chen said freely, "Director Chen, I prepared this script for you." "For me?" Chen Guoji was surprised, but he immediately guessed what Lu Chen was thinking. "Then tell me, what do you need my help with?" Lu Chen's things had helped him solve a big problem, and now he gave him a skit script that was qualified to be a classic. Chen Guoji didn't think that Lu Chen wanted to be a lay phone. "Do you want to push one of your signed artists to the Spring Festival Gala?" Chen Guoji thought that this should be Lu Chen's purpose, but Lu Chen's answer was beyond his expectation. "Director Chen, I want to invite you to direct The Smiling, Proud Wanderer." Chapter 736. The suggestion of inviting Chen Guoji to direct The Smiling, the Proud Wanderer was first put forward by Chen Fei. First of all, Chen Guoji had a great reputation in the domestic film industry. His movies were magnificent and they combined the essence of Chinese and Western culture. They had distinctive characteristics and were the real guarantee of the box office. Second of all, Chen Guoji was strict and meticulous in shooting movies. He was bold and imaginative, especially the blockbuster 3,000 Miles Through, which not only won the audience's praise, but also sold well in the box office. It was a classic work that won acclaim and box office. Therefore, if he were to direct The Smiling, the Proud Wanderer, he would definitely be able to make Lu Chen's great wuxia IP into a cornerstone, which would lay a good foundation for future IP expansion. In addition, with Chen Guoji's reputation, The Smiling, the Proud Wanderer could also make a difference in the major domestic and foreign film festivals next year. Most importantly, through the cooperation with Chen Guoji, Lu Chen's status in the film industry would be big. The male lead of The Smiling, the proud wanderer would definitely be Lu Chen himself. Although it was a good idea, it was not easy to invite this famous director. As long as he slightly revealed his intention, countless investors would come to him with boxes full of money. As for the movie scripts, he could have as many as he wanted. There was no need to worry about not having a good script. Lu Chen and Chen Fei didn't know Chen Guoji well. If they wanted to impress him, they had to show enough sincerity and real talent. Chen Guoji was obviously surprised by Lu Chen's request. He couldn't help but laugh. So that's what you are thinking? Well, I have read The Proud Wanderer. It is a very interesting wuxia novel. Is there a chance? Lu Chen was pleasantly surprised. Director Chen, I know you're very busy with work and you definitely won't be free this year, so it doesn't matter if you shoot next year. I think you're the most suitable director for The Proud Wanderer. Don't flatter me, Chen Guoji smiled. Tell me, how much are you going to spend? Lu Chen said without hesitation, starting from 100 million, no upper limit. It's up to you. Starting from 100 million, no upper limit. Chen Guoji, who had been through a lot, couldn't help but twitch his eyes. You are so bold. If a young star came to him and said such a thing, Chen Guoji would most likely scoff at it. The cost of making a movie could be a world of difference. A movie could be made with tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars, and the same could be made with tens or billions of dollars. It would be nonsense if there was no upper limit. Although Lu Chen didn't say it with confidence, it was clear that he could make a movie with 100 million or more. Guoji could make a movie with 100 million or more. Although it was not, it was very clear that he could make it. Chen thought and said, I will to say by Chen. Of Lu Chen, I Lu said. This Lu Chen. By Chen's Ling talking. Chen was. But he couldn't agree immediately. He thought about it and said, I will give you an answer in a few days. Lu Chen understood that Chen Guoji's words were basically half done. He couldn't help but smile. Thank you, Director Chen. I will wait for your good news. Chen Guoji shook his head, raised the manuscript in his hand and said, I should thank you. 2 original music works and an original skit script really helped him a lot. At least in the spring of 18, when he was the chief director, he had at least a good show. Both sides were very satisfied with the result of this private meeting. Needless to say, Chen Guoji's side was definitely full of gains. It could even be said that he got an unexpected surprise. On the other hand, although Lu Chen didn't get Chen Guoji's promise, he had established a friendly relationship with this great director, which was beneficial to himself and the future development of Chen Fei Media. A just cause enjoys abundant support, and an unjust cause finds little support. This truth was applicable everywhere. In the afternoon, Lu Chen and Chen Fei returned to the company's headquarters. The follow-up filming of You from the Star was very heavy. It was not easy to squeeze out today, so they couldn't waste any time. Returning to Chen Fei Media, not only did he have to deal with a lot of company affairs, but Chen Fei also had to record an episode of You from the Star, which was completed in the recording studio at the headquarters. When the two arrived at the recording studio, all the staff were already in place. The shed, which had cost tens of millions of yuan to build, was waiting for the queen to take the lead and make a sound at any time. Chen Fei hadn't released a new song for a long time. Many of her fans complained on the blog, saying that their idol had forgotten them now that she had a boyfriend and that she was showing off her love all day long. It was a bit too much. It was because of these complaints that Lu Chen prepared a lot of episodes for You from the Star, including the theme song. He planned to release a special soundtrack album for Chen Fei after all the episodes were broadcast to appease the fans' complaints. This song was one of them. The score was written a few days ago, and he only had time to record it today. The filming of You from the Star was too busy, and Chen Fei did not participate in the recording of the 2 custom-made works for Chen Guoji for the Spring Festival Gala. It was only now that she had the chance to sing again. In the monitoring room separated from the recording studio by a thick glass, in addition to Lu Chen and the 2 sound engineers, Lu Shi and Tong Xinyao, who had just signed with Chen Fei Media not long ago, were also there. The 20-year-old girl who made a name for herself through China's Voice, and was lucky enough to replace the winner of China's Voice. in Xian, and was signed by Lu Chen. She was currently undergoing strict training by the company. The scale and strength of the current Chenfei media was no longer comparable to the previous Lu Chen studio. They had hired many professional dance, music, musical instruments, body sculpting, and so on to be in charge of training the newcomers. One of the two dance teachers was even hired from Korea through SPG. Although Tong Xinyao was a pampered girl from a rich family, she was very hardworking when it came to training. In the past 2 months, she had improved greatly in all aspects, and her image and temperament were even more outstanding. The day of her official debut was not far away. Originally, she had a body sculpting class in the afternoon, but when she found out that Chenfei was going to record a song, she specially asked for the teacher's permission to come and watch. That was because she was a loyal fan of Chenfei. At that moment, Chenfei came to the recording studio. When she stood in front of the microphone and put on the monitoring headphones, the heavenly queen who once dominated the music industry had returned. Chapter 737. Can't help but transform into a stubborn fish, swimming alone against the ocean current. The vow I made when I was young, silently sinking into the deep sea. Revisiting it a few times, the end is still losing you. I was sentenced to a lifetime of loneliness by love, not fighting back, not letting go, endless circles drawn by the pen, the fate that can't be filled in the heart, it's you. In the recording studio, Chenfei was singing with her eyes closed. In the monitoring room, Lu Chen was listening. This song, Silence, was an interlude song he wrote for You from the Star. It was inserted at the time when the female protagonist learned the truth and knew that the comet that reincarnated every 500 years was coming, and that the male protagonist would take a spaceship back to his home planet. The melody of Silence was simple and clean. Its biggest characteristic was that it was mellow and heartfelt. The low singing of the main song created a rich emotional characteristic, making people unconsciously fall into the sad and melancholy atmosphere created by the song. Fate and calamity were the theme of this song, and also the theme of Lu Chen's adapted version of You from the Star. Chenfei was the female protagonist in the play, so it was perfect for her to sing. And now, with the help of Womanflower, Chenfei had completed the gorgeous transformation from the queen of sweet songs to the queen of love songs. Her singing style was more mature, and the emotions brewed in the filming of the drama could easily be integrated into the performance of Silence. In her rhythm and punctuation of the work, there was a kind of desolation and vastness of time, full of forbearance and insight. Then through the emotional rendering, a woman who had just found her true love was about to lose her lover's sadness, loneliness, and pain. Why love condemns all living beings to loneliness, can't break free, can't escape. Can't untie the knot between the eyebrows, can't untie the calamity in life, is you. I lost you. Although it was only the first time singing, even the most picky listener couldn't find the flaws in the singer's emotional performance, and could directly ignore the possible problems in the technique and timbre. And the fact was that there was no problem. This could be seen from the expressions on the faces of everyone in the monitoring room. Some were solemn, some were deep in thought, some were full of admiration, and some had tears in their eyes. Everyone was deeply moved by Chenfei's silence. Through the thick glass window, Lu Chen stared at Chenfei, who was standing in front of the microphone. There was a strong emotion surging in his heart, and he couldn't wait to pour it out. After the song was finished, there was a moment of silence in the monitoring room. Then someone clapped first. Although Chenfei couldn't hear it, she could see it. In the recording studio, Chenfei opened her eyes. She blinked and a tear rolled down from the corner of her eye. Lu Chen smiled and made an okay gesture at her. Chenfei tilted her head and showed a bright and charming smile. Lu Chen couldn't help but feel relieved. Recently, Chenfei had been rushing to shoot scenes. According to the director Feng Hui, she was quite immersed in the role, and today's recording of Silence was a great catharsis for her emotions. It was not easy to get into the role, and it was even more difficult to control it after getting into the role. Those who could do this were all real veteran actors. In the entertainment industry, there were many artists who were too immersed in the role, lost themselves because of a certain movie or TV series, and embarked on the road of no return. Chen Fei was not an actress with a professional background. Her acting career was actually very short, but she had already shown extraordinary talent in this regard, and her progress was even faster than Lu Chen's. And her recent state was a bit worrying, so Fang Hui secretly reminded Lu Chen in private. Originally, Lu Chen had considered recording this interlude in a few days, but he couldn't resist Chen Fei's insistence. Now her smile finally made Lu Chen feel relieved. "It's done," Lu Chen said to the recorder. "There's no need to sing it a second time." The sound recordist was stunned. Just this once? This recorder was called Zhao Bing, an industry elite who had just been poached by Chen Fei Media not long ago. He was much better than Wang Hui in both experience and level. Today, Chen Fei Media was also a well-known new brand in the circle. Although there was no special advertising and there was not much free time in the recording studio, Wang Hui was too busy to handle it alone. He was the one who took the initiative to ask for help. Today, Chen Fei's new song was recorded by Zhao Bing. Zhao Bing had worked in several well-known domestic studios, but it was the first time that he encountered a professional singer recording a song only once, although Chen Fei's performance was perfect. When a record company recorded a song for a singer, it was not successful after 1 or 2 recordings. It often needed to be recorded many times, and after a certain effect was achieved, it had to be reorganized, such as modifying the treble, adding some musical elements, etc. The process was quite complicated. After a few more recordings, there would be more comparisons, and the best could be selected from them. Therefore, the situation of only recording once was really rare, and Zhao Bing's thinking was a little confused. Lu Chen smiled and said, "Once is enough, thank you." Of course, Lu Chen knew the procedures of recording a song, but he was worried about Chen Fei's mood, so he insisted. Zhao Bing quickly said, "It's not troublesome, it's too easy. Teacher Chen's level is really good." He came back to his senses and thought that Lu Chen's decision was really right. The first recording was perfect, and there was no need to record it more than once. This song is also amazing. When Zhao Bing first jumped to Chen Fei Media, in addition to the temptation of high salary, it was also because of his admiration for the two heads of Chen Fei Media. Now that he heard it, it was indeed a well-deserved reputation. Lu Chen's songwriting was excellent, and Chen Fei's singing was good. The two were a perfect match. At this time, Chen Fei pushed the door of the recording studio and asked, "What's wrong? Don't you want to record?" Lu Chen said, "It's not necessary to pass in one go." Chen Fei couldn't help but roll his eyes at him. "How can that be?" Tong Xinyao jumped over and held Chen Fei's hand, saying, "Sister Fei, your singing is really, really good. I almost cried listening to it. I support Teacher Lu's opinion." Her eyes were really red just now. Chen Fei smiled and said, "You've learned to make me happy now?" Although Tong Xinyao had not joined Chen Fei Media for a long time, since The Voice of China, Chen Fei had a good impression of this beautiful, well-behaved and polite girl. Now their intimacy level was even higher. Lu Shi interrupted, "I also think it's okay. Fei, Lu Chen, let's go to the office. There's something I need to discuss with you." The recording of Silence was completed, and the post-production was naturally left to Zhao Bing to complete. When they arrived at Lu Shi's office, Lu Chen asked curiously, "Sister, what's the matter?" Lu Shi's answer surprised him and Chen Fei. South Korea's KBS TV station sent an invitation to the two of them. Note: Silence lyrics. Inu/composer, Qian Lei. Chapter 738. KBS was the largest television station in South Korea and had the largest market share in South Korea. There were many countries in Southeast Asia that would broadcast KBS's programs. In terms of power, it far surpassed Chen Fei Media's partner, KGS, which was ranked last among the 3 major television stations in South Korea. It was precisely because of this that Lu Chen and Chen Fei were surprised. KBS and KGS had a strong competitive relationship. Why would they suddenly invite the two of them? KBS had once sought the broadcasting rights of You from the Star in South Korea, but was rejected by Chen Fei Media and continued to cooperate with KGS. The reason was actually very simple. KGS was the most sincere partner, and the people of KBS always had a sense of arrogance, which made Lu Chen and Chen Fei feel disgusted. The rejection last time was already a slap in the face. Could it be that KBS was satisfied with the slap and wanted to be abused again? Lu Shi smiled and explained to the two's confusion, "It's the request of KBS's major shareholder." This major shareholder that KBS couldn't compete with was the famous Daing Group in South Korea. South Korea was a country ruled by aristocrats, and the political and economic aspects were largely controlled by the 5 major financial groups. The government had always spared no effort to support the financial groups, which gave them a special status in South Korea. Among the 5 major financial groups, the most famous and powerful was undoubtedly the Samsung Group. Its business scope covered trade, electronics, shipbuilding, construction, petrochemical, sugar, textile, chemical fiber, paper, finance, service industry, and many other fields. It had a certain amount of influence in the world. Although the Daing Group wasn't as large as the Samsung Group, it had a longer history. So far, it had a total of 58 subsidiaries and more than 100,000 employees. It was very strong in finance, international trade, machinery, media, service industry, and so on. The Daing Group was the 2nd largest shareholder of KBS and the 3rd largest shareholder of KGS. The reason why KBS invited Lu Chen and Chen Fei to the program was because KBS had a new celebrity show host, Song Jiajin, who was pursuing one of the heirs of the Daing Group, Lu Qingxian. Lu Shi explained for several minutes before Lu Chen finally figured out the relationship. To put it simply, Lu Qingxian, who is the heir to the Daing Consortium, came forward to put pressure on KBS in order to pursue Song Jiajin and asked the latter to invite Lu Chen and Chen Fei to participate in Song Jiajin's show. This program is called New Celebrity Show. The information Lu Shi had obtained through SPG was very comprehensive. It's mainly about inviting popular stars in the entertainment industry to interact with the audience, chat, sing, play games, and so on. The format of the program is not very unique, and the ratings are not high. The average is only about 3%. With an average viewership rating of 3%, it would definitely be a popular trump card in China. But in Korea, especially in KBS, it was really a little bad. It was a fringe program that wasn't worth paying attention to. He furrowed his brows and said, "Boring. Just reject him," Lu Chen agreed. "Let's just tell KBS that we can't make time." First of all, they really didn't have any free time. Actually, he didn't like the inside story behind KBS's invitation. So the two of them were Lu Qingxian's tools to chase girls? Lu Shi frowned. "If we offend the Daing Consortium? All right, since you two have the same opinion, then I'll tell KBS that I can't make time." Offending the Daing Consortium, which had a say in the Korean media industry, was indeed not beneficial to Lu Chen and Chen Fei's expansion in the Korean market. But so what? As long as they had a firm hold on the domestic market, there was no end to the money. The two of them didn't need to make things difficult for themselves. Lu Chen and Chen Fei looked at each other and smiled. Lu Shi rubbed her brows and said, "Then that's it. Lu Chen, don't forget to go to the fan meeting tonight early. Fei, let's have dinner together." Chen Fei smiled and said, "Okay, after dinner, let's go to the Yansha area. Chanel just released a new product." The two women began to discuss heatedly. The style changed so quickly that Lu Chen could only sigh helplessly and leave alone with his tail between his legs. Today, his work schedule was full. In the morning, he met with Chen Guoji to discuss. In the afternoon, he recorded Chen Fei's new song. In the evening, there was a fan meeting organized by Whale TV for Lu Chen. The theme of this fan meeting was called Memories of the First Touching. The location was the main venue of the Meili Cultural Center in Beijing. The starting time was 7 p.m. Whale TV had been preparing for this fan meeting for a long time. As a company headquartered in the deep sea, Whale TV specially rented an office in Beijing and sent elite personnel to make overall arrangements. The standard could be said to be extremely high. The reason why they didn't open it in the deep sea was entirely to make it convenient for Lu Chen. For today's Whale TV, Lu Chen was definitely a star sign that they couldn't lose. He was a spokesperson that they were willing to pay any price to keep. In the past few years after Lu Chen signed with Whale TV had a chance to take off again. Not only did it regain the market share that it had lost before, but it also created a new model of star live broadcasting, making a lot of money ahead of all its peers. As Lu Chen's influence in the entertainment circle grew, Whale TV had become one of the best live broadcasting platforms in the industry. In turn, it attracted more and more excellent anchors to join, forming a virtuous cycle. In fact, by now, Whale TV had little effect on Lu Chen. The time that he personally participated in the live broadcast was also very little. Most of the time, it was live broadcast arranged by the company. Leaving Whale TV wouldn't be much of a loss for him. Moreover, there were other live broadcasting platforms that offered a higher price tag, and even used shares to invite him to jump ship. However, Lu Chen declined those invitations and chose to renew his contract with Whale TV, because he didn't forget his original promise to his fans. That's why there was this memory of the first touched fan meeting. When Lu Chen arrived at Mile Cultural Center, people from Whale TV were already waiting there. Manager Wu, Miss Wu, Lu Chen got out of the car and saw two acquaintances first. He smiled and greeted, "Long time no see." "It's really been a long time." Wu Hongming, who was now the deputy general manager of Whale TV, and Wu Shanshan, who had just been promoted, were the two representatives that Whale TV had sent to Beijing to sign the first contract with Lu Chen. It was also Wu Shanshan who dug out Lu Chen from many anchors and gave him a pretty good contract. Chapter 739. Wu Shanshan can be regarded as Lu Chen's Bolu. Of course, she is a very lucky Bolu, because Lu Chen's brilliance at that time was dazzling enough. As long as one has a little bit of eyesight, they would be able to see it. Her luck lies in the fact that she was the first to sign Lu Chen. And that contract has also become the most brilliant one in Wu Shanshan's career. And with this factor, she has now become a director of Whale TV's operations department. As for Wu Hongming, he also jumped a level and jumped to the top of the country's largest live broadcasting platform. So this time, both of them came to the fan meeting organized by Whale TV. After a long separation, although Lu Chen's status in the industry has reached a level that Wu Hongming and Wu Shanshan need to look up to, he is as kind and easygoing as before. His sincere smile and greetings make the two feel gratified and happy. Wu Hongming said, "Teacher Lu, let's go inside and talk." Accompanied by the people of Whale TV, Lu Chen came to the VIP reception room of the Mele Cultural Center. Here, he first accepted an interview with a special reporter of Whale TV. When the interview ended, it was close to 7 o'clock. And at this moment, the main hall of the Mele Cultural Center is full of seats. The carefully arranged stage is dazzling with colorful lights, and the huge LED screen shows the logo and title of Whale TV. Memories of the first touching Lu Chen anchors fan meeting. The main hall of the Mele Cultural Center is an indoor hall. The area is not very large and can only accommodate up to 500 audience members. And most of these audience members are the most loyal fans of Lu Chen on the live broadcasting platform. Among the total of 500 places, 300 places are given to the first 300 local tycoons/loyal fans of Lu Chen's live broadcasting platform, 100 places are given to the first 100 veteran fans of Lu Chen, and 50 places are given to all the fans through a lottery. As for the last 50 spots, they were reserved for the official representatives of Whale TV and special guests. This meant that 90% of the audience were hardcore supporters of Lu Chen. Although the number was not large, their enthusiasm was unquestionable. Light sticks were flying in the air, placards were raised high, and shouts were coming one after another. It made people feel like they were in a sea of joy and passion. When it was 7 o'clock in the evening, Lu Chen, who was dressed casually, appeared with a soothing and soft music accompaniment, pushing the atmosphere of the venue to its climax. Lu Chen, Lu Chen. In the beginning, the chaotic shouts quickly turned into a unified shout. The sound waves that were set off were about to break through the dome. Lu Chen, who was standing under the spotlight, smiled and waved his hand. It was as if he had cast some kind of magic, and the scene quickly became quiet. Only the light sticks and placards were still waving, and the colorful light reflected the excited faces. Whale TV's arrangement of the stage was very interesting. They placed a dark blue computer table in the center, on which there were computers, microphones, high-definition cameras, and a full set of live broadcast equipment. Of course, there was also a custom-made host chair. These devices are not decorations. They are all turned on and are broadcasting live to the entire platform. Whale TV has specially launched a new channel for this meet and greet. Hundreds of millions of viewers on the platform can watch the live video in real time, and they can also send messages and gifts. When Lu Chen appeared in the live broadcast room of the fan meeting channel, the number of online viewers had exceeded the 5 million mark, and it was rising at an alarming rate, creating new records one after another. As for the reward gifts such as fish balls, it could no longer be described as raindrops. The speed of the system prompt was so fast that people couldn't even see it. A group of aircraft carriers passed through the screen. Haha, it's starting. Finally, I didn't miss it. I'm so happy. I envy those guys who can go to the scene. I want to go too. The people of Shanghai send a congratulatory message, wishing Lu Chen's fan meeting a complete success. The people of Beijing send a congratulatory message. The people of Deep Sea. Interestingly, many Whale TV anchors stopped playing and ran directly here to watch the excitement, so that the attention of the entire platform was focused on Lu Chen alone. Only Lu Chen has such popularity and attraction. Without the host on the scene, all the light was focused on him. Lu Chen sat down in a chair. He turned his body sideways to the audience and said, "I'm very happy to meet everyone here tonight. Thank you, for holding this meet and greet for me and everyone." 3 years ago, like many people here, I was an ordinary member of society. At that time, I hadn't officially graduated from college, and I was working hard to make a living. Lu Chen's opening remarks were very simple and straightforward. He didn't deliberately sensationalize the atmosphere. He told his life experience to the 500 audience present, as well as the millions of fans on Whale TV. Recalling the initial touching, after 3 years, Lu Chen really had too many emotions in his heart when he recalled that period of time. Life was so wonderful. A long dream had led him on a completely different path. Sometimes, he even wondered if he was still in the dream and hadn't woken up, because everything he had now was more or less a little too unreal. He didn't say too much. Memories don't only need to be expressed with words, but also with music and singing. Picking up the rosewood guitar next to the computer desk, Lu Chen held it in his arms and said with a smile, "I believe everyone recognizes this guitar. It's my most cherished instrument, because it was a birthday gift from my sister, Lu Shui. Tonight, I will still play all my songs with it, including the first song below, a song that everyone is familiar with." As his voice fell, Lu Chen plucked the strings and played the prelude. Then his clear, clean, and slightly sad singing voice sounded, flowing into everyone's ears like running water. "Tomorrow I will go far away and embark on a journey that will never return. Do you still remember the blue crystal I gave you? Your real name is engraved on it, Blue Crystal." Someone shouted the name of the song. This song, Blue Crystal, was a popular classic. The lyrics were catchy, and with a beautiful melody, it has always been in the forefront in the KTV box. It was not Lu Chen's original work, but it was the first song that Lu Chen sang on the live broadcast platform. Although the platform he first sang on at that time was not Whale TV, many veteran fans present began to know Lu Chen from this song. Chapter 740. In the main venue of the Meili Art Center, at the fan meeting scene of Memories of the Initial Touching, when Lu Chen played and sang the song Blue Crystal that everyone was familiar with, Tao Su was sitting in the middle of the second row. His face couldn't help but show a smile, and his eyes were filled with a look of reminiscence. When Tao Su first heard Lu Chen sing this song, he was still studying at New York University in the United States. Now he has been working in a domestic portal for 2 years. The life of studying abroad was hard and boring. Tao Su spent his lonely time on the internet, so he also came into contact with the rising online live broadcast in China. At that time, Tao Su was a Silver Level 4 member in the Starlight Show with the ID New Yorker. It was completely by chance that he clicked into a less popular live broadcast room and met Lu Chen. It was this song, Blue Crystal, that made Tao Su become a fan of Lu Chen, and he was the first person to donate. Later, he followed Lu Chen to Whale TV, until now. This time, Whale TV held memories of the first touching Lu Chen's fan meeting, and Tao Su was the first person to be invited. When he heard this song again, his heart was full of emotion and memories. The time when he was alone in a foreign land seemed to reappear in front of him. La la la. When Lu Chen hummed the last lyric under the accompaniment of the guitar, Tao Su was the first to stand up from his seat and applaud vigorously. Under his leadership, the audience stood up in unison, and the applause, cheers, and shouts set off a new wave of climaxes, making the atmosphere in the venue reach its peak again. Lu Chen also got up and bowed to all the audience with his guitar in his arms to express his gratitude. When he sat down again, the atmosphere at the scene finally returned to calm. "Thank you everyone," Lu Chen said with a sigh. "Here, I first want to thank a friend. I don't know what his real name is, but I remember his ID very clearly, called New Yorker, because he was the first person to donate in my first live broadcast." The New Yorker. When Tao Su heard his online ID come out from Lu Chen's mouth, his face instantly flushed red, and his breathing became heavy. His ears buzzed, and he felt a surge of hot blood rushing to his head. He had never imagined that Lu Chen would actually remember him. Actually, among Lu Chen's fans, based on the number of gifts, Tao Su was probably not even in the top 1,000. There were too many rich people, but the first fan Lu Chen thanked was him. Lu Chen continued, "I don't know if my New Yorker friend is here. If he is, could you please ask him to stand up and let me meet him?" The audience could not help but look at each other. Many of them looked left and right to find the person who had received Lu Chen's special thanks, the New Yorker. Under everyone's expectations, Tao Su stood up shakily as if he was drunk. The next moment, a beam of spotlight accurately shone on him, and the cameras arranged at the scene simultaneously locked on this special fan, and then the scene was transmitted to the internet in real time, witnessed by nearly 10 million platform viewers. Tao Su's heart was trembling. Lu Chen put down the guitar in his hand, walked down from the stage, and extended his hand to him. "Thank you for your support, and it's nice to meet you." Tao Su was already dizzy, and he shook hands with Lu Chen in a daze. The surrounding fans looked at Tao Su with envy, jealous that he had such a special treatment. Tao Su did not know what he said, and when he sat down again, he was in a daze for a long time. Lu Chen had returned to the stage. "The second song I will sing, I believe everyone must be very familiar with it. It is also my first original work, You Who Sat Next to Me." Before Lu Chen said the name of the work, the fans at the scene had already shouted it for him. "You Who Sat Next to Me." In the live broadcast room of Whale TV, the number of online viewers finally broke through the 10 million mark, creating a new record since the start of the platform. Countless barrage comments were flooding the screen. "This is my favorite song. It feels like a long time has passed. I really miss it. I sang it in KTV a few days ago, and then I confessed to the goddess I secretly loved. This song, I won't get tired of listening to it 10,000 times. I can play it." On the stage, Lu Chen's eyes swept across the computer screen, and he said with a smile, "Yes, it is this song, You Who Sat Next to Me, so I hope to sing it with everyone. What do you say?" Thousands of good words instantly appeared on the screen. Lu Chen smiled. He bowed his head and strummed the strings. The sound of the guitar was like the gurgling of water, gently rippling in the venue. "Tomorrow will you remember, the diary you wrote yesterday? Tomorrow will you still remember, once? The teachers can't remember, you can't guess the problem, I also accidentally flipped through the photos." This song, You Who Sat Next to Me, like all those classic works, has become the most profound imprint on Lu Chen. When people mention his name, the first thing they think of is this song. Time flies. You Who Sat Next to Me has not been forgotten with the passage of time, but more and more exudes a warm and charming flavor, making people recall it for a long time. It has also become one of the most commonly covered songs in countless school cultural performances or evening performances. It's just that as Lu Chen created new songs one after another, the number of times he sang You Who Sat Next to Me became less and less. Similarly, it was difficult for people to see him personally hosting the live broadcast. Only tonight, Lu Chen once again sat in front of the microphone and camera, facing the computer, and singing this song, "You Who Sat Next to Me," in front of thousands of fans who like him. Let everyone reminisce about the past, those first touching moments. Who met the sentimental you, who comforted the crying you, who read the letter I wrote to you? The fans at the scene, including many fans sitting in front of the computer or holding the mobile phone to watch the live broadcast, sang this song with Lu Chen. Many people's eyes were red and tears flowed down. They were not only singing "You Who Sat Next to Me," but also the lost years of youth. There were no dazzling and blurred lighting effects, no wonderful and rich band accompaniment, and even the big LED screen no longer displayed any pictures. There was only a beam of light shining on Lu Chen, who was playing and singing. There was also the chorus of singing that converged together. Even after many, many years, many people present still firmly remember the scene at this moment. People and songs are still imprinted in the depths of their souls, becoming an indelible memory. Chapter 741. Whale TV, Memories of the First Touching. Lu Chen's fan meeting started at 7 p.m. and came to an end at 9:35 p.m. In these 2.5 hours, Lu Chen, with a guitar, brought the 500 audience at the scene and tens of millions of fans in the Whale TV live broadcast room to relive the good memories of the past. Your desk mate, the brother who slept on my upper bunk, Love in the Wind, Cinderella, Those Flowers, The Brightest Star in the Night Sky, Long Time No See, The Story of Time. The works that fans were familiar with, folk songs and love songs, made this fan meet and greet shrouded in an atmosphere of nostalgia and passion. It also made countless fans laugh and feel touched. Lu Chen hasn't sung like this for a long time. Although there are interactive programs with fans between the singing, his voice is a little hoarse after so much singing. The fans are simply distressed, and a lot of barrage expressing concern appeared in the live broadcast room. It's already 15 songs. Lu Chen's big voice is almost hoarse. Don't sing anymore. Well, playing games is okay. We all support it. Yes, don't sing anymore. It's most important to protect your vocal cords. Damn, are all those people at the scene pigs? Why are they still cheering? Don't they know how to care about my chin? I feel sorry for my chin. Generally speaking, when a professional singer holds a solo concert, the songs they sing are around 20 and up to 25. In contrast, Lu Chen singing 15 songs is not much. But for this level of fan meeting, 15 songs is really a lot. And if it's a concert, professional singers will take care of their voices in advance, and then make careful arrangements for the program as well as backstage tuning, etc., to reduce pressure as much as possible. And Lu Chen played and sang by himself. Every song was of the standard that it should be. It took a lot of effort, and the effort he put in was no less than that of a concert. Up to now, his forehead has been dripping with sweat. Fans are tolerant, sensitive, and harsh. They can tolerate the mistakes made by their idol accidentally, but they are exceptionally sensitive to whether their favorite singer is singing seriously or not. Lu Chen's performance was impeccable. The cries from the internet quickly affected the scene. The cheers and shouts decreased a lot. Everyone even started to quiet down. Lu Chen saw the bullet screen full of comments and felt the atmosphere of the scene. He smiled and said, "Well, I just saw a fan say that she wanted to take a taxi to give me some throat-soothing tea. I'll thank this friend here first. You really don't have to go through so much trouble. I'll sing one more song, the last one. Sing a new song. This song is for everyone. Let's reminisce about the first moments when we were touched, as well as the fading years of youth." As soon as Lu Chen's voice fell, the audience immediately burst into a thunderous applause, like a storm. Lu Chen lowered his head with a smile and plucked the strings again. Flowers drifting with snow in the wind, it sprouted in his memory. Those red and green colors are our youth. His ambition was boundless. In the blink of an eye, they had gone their separate ways. Walking alone on the street, he only saw the sunset glow of the past. The name of this song was The Passing Years, which was specially written by Lu Chen for this fan meeting. The simple guitar accompaniment was still the nostalgic folk song style that all fans were most familiar with. With the sadness and remembrance of the lost youth, The melody entangled the hearts of the listeners like silk threads. Since You Who Sat Next to Me, Lu Chen created the campus folk song style and also brought the waves of nostalgic folk songs. Thus, he left his indelible mark in the Chinese pop music world. Many singers and songwriters imitated his style and created a lot of good folk songs. But in the hearts of fans, no one could replace Lu Chen, nor could they imitate the essence of his works. Perhaps now, the number of Lu Chen's fans and passers-by has exceeded his fans big, but his fans have always been his most loyal supporters and have never wavered. Tonight's special fan meeting was very satisfying for Lu Chen's fans, because they followed Lu Chen to review the classics, especially those folk songs. The only regret was that they didn't hear Lu Chen's new song. Unexpectedly, in the end, Lu Chen still made up for this regret and dedicated a new work to everyone. Time is like flowing water, urging us to grow up. Young hearts have white hair. The people of the past, where are you now? Are you also looking for the home of your dreams? The passing years didn't make any breakthrough in melody style, but for fans, this song was more like a summary of all the previous works, once again washing their hearts. In the main hall of the Mei Lu Art Center, it was extremely quiet, and everyone listened quietly. In the Whale TV live broadcast room, the barrage became very sparse, and even those local tyrants who were frantically giving gifts let go of the mouse in their hands and listened to the music that moved them. Recalling the initial touching. After the end of the fan meeting, Whale TV announced the data of the live broadcast on its homepage. The highest number of people online in the live broadcast room was 13750,748, breaking the record of all live broadcast platforms and creating an unprecedented miracle. In addition, in less than 3 hours, the amount of gifts converted totaled to 278.93, 527 yuan and 3 cents, which was another terrible record. Among them, the number one fan gave a gift worth 1,880,000 yuan. This inevitably caused a sensation and a wave of public opinion. Whale TV officials and Lu Chen had already issued a public statement long before the fan meeting was held that all the gifts would be donated to the Chin Fei Charity Fund to help sick children who couldn't get timely treatment because of poverty. Because it was a full donation, Whale TV not only bore the expenses of the event, but also paid a high operating fee. In terms of direct benefits alone, they lost millions. Of course, what Whale TV has gained are invisible benefits and long-term potential influence. But no matter what, although the amount of gifts in the live broadcast was very astonishing, the media's reaction was not strange or sour, but more of amazement and praise. As for Lu Chen's fans, it was even more favorable. There were many stars in the entertainment industry, but people like Lu Chen who invested money earned again and again into charity, really not much. He never let his fans down, nor did he fail to live up to everyone's expectations. Note, lyrics/composer of The Passing Years, Xia Xiaohu. Chapter 742. Autumn passed and winter came. In the blink of an eye, it was already early winter, and people living in Beijing began to feel the chill of winter. Entering late November, the shooting of You from the Star was nearing the end. After returning from the United States, Lu Chen and Chin Fei devoted most of their time to the shooting of this TV series. Coupled with the tacit cooperation of the crew, everyone worked together, and the later it got smoother and smoother, so it was basically finished by the end of the month. The average audience rating of You from the Star, which was broadcast simultaneously on Beijing television and Zhidong satellite TV, has been maintained between 7% and 8%, and the highest audience rating once exceeded 10%, becoming a phenomenal show among phenomenal shows. If you randomly search You from the Star on the internet, you can find at least hundreds of millions of related information. The number of fans in the official Tieba exceeded 10 million. The main actors in the play, apart from the two protagonists, became very popular. For example, Tong Xinyao, who signed with Chin Fei Media not long ago, played a supporting female role in the play, and her popularity has been close to that of the popular newcomers, which also made her new album, which was to be released at the end of the year, become popular. You from the Star has set a new high in the ratings in South Korea, breaking through the highest ratings boundary of national drama, and becoming the first imported drama to reach 50% in South Korea. Similarly, the two South Korean actors in the play have become South Korean A-list artists in one fell swoop, which can be described as soaring. In addition, major TV stations in many countries, including Japan, have been interested in introducing You from the Star, which has also gradually expanded the influence of You from the Star in Southeast Asia. For Luchin, there are still many major events that happened in November. First of all, the online crowdfunding has passed the review of the relevant agencies in the United States and reached an issuance agreement with two bank securities companies, which will be officially listed on NASDAQ on December 1st. In fact, after a seesaw negotiation, Chen-Fei Media and Blue Sky Digital also reached a cooperation agreement. Chen-Fei Media acquired 75% of Blue Sky Digital Studios shares for $55 million, becoming the latter's second largest shareholder. After Chen-Fei Media invested in Blue Sky Digital, the two sides will carry out all-round cooperation in film and television special effects, and the last shortcoming of Chen-Fei Media in the field of film and television production will be made up. Finally, both Lu Chen and Chen-Fei would attend the 50th anniversary celebration party that would be held at the Xiangjiang Century Square on November 29th. On November 29, 1967, Hong Kong, which had been forcibly occupied by the United Kingdom for 100 years, returned to the motherland smoothly. In the past 50 years, Hong Kong, as a special administrative region of China, had undergone profound changes in politics, economy, and culture. It was thriving and prosperous, and had become a first-class international metropolis in Asia. As it was the 50th anniversary of returning to China, the Hong Kong government held a series of celebration activities, which had started in October, and this celebration party was undoubtedly the most important one. In addition to Hong Kong stars, many singers and actors from the mainland were also invited to the gala, including Lu Chen, Chen-Fei, Liao Jia, and so on. On November 25th, Lu Chen and Chen-Fei flew to Hong Kong. The two of them came over quietly, so they didn't alert the well-connected media. It was Shi Fang who came to the airport to pick them up. Sister Fang. When he saw Shi Fang again, Chen-Fei hugged her tightly. The experience of working together on The Voice of China had established an excellent friendship between them, and they were as passionate as sisters who had reunited after a long separation. Shi Fang was very low-key. She only brought an assistant to pick them up, and then they went to her house in Banshan. Shi Fang's Banshan Villa was very famous in Hong Kong. Its original owner was Su Jinyang, a famous real estate tycoon in Hong Kong. He spent hundreds of millions of Hong Kong dollars to build it in the early 1990s. However, the international financial crisis in the late 1990s caused the stock market and property market of Hong Kong to plummet. Su Jinyang's real estate company had a cash flow problem, so he had no choice but to sell the villa for $150 million. In the end, when no one wanted to buy it, Shi Fang brazenly took out all her savings and borrowed from a friend, and bought it for $130 million. At that time, many people thought that Shi Fang was simply crazy, but reality proved that she had foresight. This Banshan villa was worth at least $1 billion, and it was a real estate that could be passed down for generations. There was once a Xiangjiang tycoon who offered $1 billion to buy this villa from Shi Fang, but was rejected by her. Lu Chen had also heard of this villa for a long time, and today was a real eye-opener. This villa was an independent 3-story building with an area of more than 1,000 square meters, and it had a large garden of more than 2,000 square meters, woods, grass, swimming pool, fountain, and so on. It also had a panoramic view of Victoria Harbor. Shi Fang was still unmarried, so this villa was completely owned by her. She often held parties here, and the guests were all Xiangjiang celebrities or big shots in the circle. Chen-Fei fell in love with it at first sight. She sat on a comfortable chair, bathed in the warm but not scorching sunlight, tasted the freshly brewed Indian black tea, and looked down at the magnificent scenery of Victoria in the distance. The tiredness of the long-distance flight was swept away. She let out a long sigh of satisfaction, narrowed her eyes and said to Shi Fang, "Sister Fang, this house of yours is really too good. I want to stay here and not leave." Shi Fang chuckled and said, "You can stay as long as you want." Anyway, I have a lot of rooms here. Those who were familiar with Shifeng knew that there were many people who could enter and leave her villa, but there were absolutely few who could live in it for a long time. All of them were the real friends of the Queen of Xiangjiang. Chen Fei glared at Lu Chen bitterly and said, "It's a pity that I can only stay in Xiangjiang for a few days. After the TV series, I have to shoot a movie. I'm busy all day." Lu Chen smiled bitterly and rubbed his nose, speechless. After shooting Xingyu, Chen Fei Media would immediately start shooting the smiling, proud wanderer. They definitely couldn't make it in time for the spring festival, but they couldn't miss the summer vacation. Time was also quite tight. And for this martial arts movie, in order to ensure the box office results in effect, Lu Chen would play Ling Huchong, and Chen Fei would play Ren Yingying, and they were going to shoot 2 movies in a row, so everyone was busy. Shifeng smiled and said, "You are still young. Of course, you should focus on your career. You can ask Lu Chen to buy a house here for you. How nice it is for us to be neighbors." Chen Fei's eyes suddenly lit up. "That's a good idea, but there are no villas for sale here, right? There would basically be no new mansions in the middle of the mountain. If they wanted to buy one, they could only take it from others. There were basically no villas for sale on the market, and they couldn't be bought easily with money." Shifeng said, "I can help you keep an eye out." As the two chatted, they began to talk about the house, leaving the business at the back of their heads. Fortunately, another important guest rushed over. The guest was also one of Lu Chen's few friends in the circle in Xiangjiang, Lu Gangxing. Chapter 743. Brother Xing. Seeing Lu Gangxing, Lu Chen and Chen Fei stood up and greeted him together. Lu Gangxing laughed and opened his arms to give Lu Chen a strong hug. Long time no see. They hadn't seen each other for a long time. The last time they met was at the Hong Kong premiere of A Chinese Ghost Story, but they had been in touch with each other and their friendship was even deeper. Lu Gangxing's appreciation for Lu Chen was really known by everyone in Hong Kong. Not long ago, Lu Chen had an accident in the United States. Lu Gangxing called him as soon as he knew the news and asked his friend in the United States to take care of him. Although he didn't help much in the end, Lu Chen remembered this favor. Lu Gangxing didn't come alone today. There was a gentle and beautiful woman beside him. "This is my wife, Lu Jingyi." Lu Gangxing took the initiative to introduce to Lu Chen and Chen Fei. "She heard that you two are here. She also wants to meet the male and female leads of Autumn in My Heart." Lu Chen was a little surprised and quickly said politely, "Hello, sister-in-law. It's the first time we meet. Please take care of me." Lu Gangxing's wife was a legendary figure in the circle. Lu Chen knew her, but it was the first time he saw her in person. Lu Jingyi was the runner-up of Miss Hong Kong in 1995. Her father was a lawyer in Xiangjiang and her mother was a doctor. Her family conditions were excellent, but she chose to enter the entertainment industry after graduating from college. After winning the runner-up of Miss Hong Kong, she quickly signed a contract with a management company and released her first solo album. Then she shot many movies and TV series in succession. Her career as a star could be said to be smooth. However, just as she became popular, she suddenly quit the entertainment industry and disappeared from the sight of her fans. There was very little news about her in the media. In fact, the reason why this beautiful and intelligent Miss Hong Kong quit the entertainment industry was that she met and fell in love with Lu Gangxing during a cooperation and resolutely retired behind the scenes. Due to some special reasons, Lu Gangxing had never officially announced Lu Jingyi's identity. However, the two of them had been together for 20 years. Lu Jingyi supported Lu Gangxing wholeheartedly, and the latter gave his wife the greatest protection. Now that Lu Gangxing was getting older, he was also slowly revealing his family situation to the public. Everyone believed that this imitating couple in the entertainment industry would eventually stand in front of everyone openly. Lu Chen had read stories about Lu Jingyi on the internet. He knew that she had raised a son and a daughter for Lu Gangxing. Although she was unknown, she was willing to endure hardship. She was truly an admirable woman. "Hello, Lu Chen, nice to meet you. You're even more handsome than on TV." Lu Jingyi smiled. Lu Gangxing was jealous. "He's not as handsome as me." Everyone couldn't help but laugh, and the atmosphere was very harmonious. After laughing, Lu Jingyi's gaze fell on Chen Fei. She held Chen Fei's hand and exclaimed, "Miss Chen is really beautiful. Well, you're even more beautiful in real life than on TV." Her smiled and said, "Sister Jingyi, you flatter me. I think you're really beautiful." Lu Jingyi shook her head. "I'm old." Although they were more than 10 years apart and it was the first time they met, Lu Jingyi and Chen Fei felt like old friends at first sight. After sitting down, they chatted intimately. Together with Shi Fang, the topics between the three women were almost endless. Lu Jingyi was actually a fan of Lu Chen and Chen Fei. Not only had she watched the movie A Chinese Ghost Story, starring the two, but she also watched the two TV series Autumn in My Heart and Full House of Romance. She was also watching You from the Star. Although Mrs. Lu was in her 40s this year, she was no different from an ordinary fan when it came to talking about TV series. Meanwhile, Lu Gangsheng pulled Lu Chen aside and told him about the Xiangjiang New Voice that had been in preparation for more than half a year. Xiangjiang New Voice was a singing talent show conceived by Lu Chen and many people in the Xiangjiang circle, including Lu Gangsheng, when he was developing in Xiangjiang last year. The aim was to encourage and support Xiangjiang's local original music so that Cantonese songs could regain their glory. The show was proposed by Madame Jean, and the name was thought up by Lu Chen, but the real promoter was Lu Gangsheng. It was precisely because of his active participation that ATV and Xiangjiang Satellite TV were competing for the production and broadcasting rights of the show. After a fierce competition, Xiangjiang Satellite TV had the last laugh. The higher-ups of the satellite TV attached great importance to the talent show. They came up with 3 program plans and did a lot of market research. Everything was basically ready now, except for the final push. Originally, Xiangjiang New Voice was planning to start the auditions in September. However, the appearance of The Voice of China and its huge influence made the satellite TV revise their plans. Lu Gangsheng said frankly to Lu Chen, The Voice of China is too outstanding. The people at the satellite TV are very stressed. My goal is to make Xiangjiang New Voice the most influential music show in the history of Xiangjiang. They have revised the program plan at least a dozen times. As he said that, Lu Gangsheng laughed. So, you must participate in this show. Lu Chen readily agreed. No problem. He was so straightforward that Lu Gangsheng felt a little embarrassed. You don't have to agree so quickly. Let's talk about when you have a schedule first. Will it be available in March or April next year? As a Xiangjiang Heavenly King, Lu Gangsheng knew very well that with Lu Chen's current popularity in the country, his schedule would definitely be full. Under normal circumstances, not to mention this year, it would be normal for him to have a full schedule next year. He really hoped that Lu Chen would join, but he would definitely not disrupt Lu Chen's work plans. Lu Chen thought about it and replied, It should be fine in April. I'll confirm the time when I go back. You from the Star was coming to an end. Next, he would be filming The Smiling, Proud Wanderer. It would definitely be finished by April next year. Otherwise, even if it was post-production, it would not be able to make it in time for the summer. Lu Gangsheng was very happy. That's really great. Xiangjiang is really lacking in original music now. I hope that through this show, those outstanding talents can stand out. Lu Chen nodded. Seeing the Heavenly King's happy look, he was quite touched. At Lu Gangsheng's level, fame and fortune were fleeting. What he really had was the passion and sincerity for his career. He was willing to do his best to repay society and the industry. This true love was worth learning from for Lu Chen. Chapter 744. Lu Gangsheng was a senior in the entertainment circle, and Lu Chen was a rising star. Their appreciation and respect for each other made them real friends, and the cooperation between friends was always pleasant and satisfying. Lu Chen agreed to be a judge of Hong Kong New Voice, and he would write a promotional theme song for this music talent show. He specially made time for the show in April and May of next year. In return, Lu Gangsheng volunteered to play a role in The Smiling, the Proud Swordsman, which would be filmed at the end of the year. Because of the success model of A Chinese Ghost Story, which had a box office of more than 1 billion yuan, after Chen Fei Media revealed that it would adapt the film of The Smiling, Proud Wanderer, there were countless entertainment agencies and artists who came to seek cooperation. It was not easy for other artists to get a role in The Proud Swordsman, even if they owed a favor. But for Lu Gangxing, asking for a role was like giving a favor to others. With the participation of this famous king in the Chinese circle, The Proud Swordsman would not only have a strong box office in China and Hong Kong, but also in the whole Southeast Asia. I hope there will be enough fighting scenes for this role. Lu Gangxing excitedly made a few gestures with his fists. It is what foreigners call Chinese kung fu. I think you will put real kung fu into this movie, right? The term Chinese kung fu was coined by Lu Chen. Together with his fighting video in the UD 725 incident, it had already spread all over the world, including Hong Kong. In fact, Hong Kong had also made martial arts fighting movies in the 70s and 80s, but it was not popular and was later replaced by Hollywood action movies. However, there was a market for traditional martial arts in Hong Kong. As early as a few decades ago, there were many martial arts clubs in Hong Kong. They taught their apprentices martial arts such as Southern Fist and Northern Leg, knife, spear, sword, rod, and so on. But now, these martial arts clubs were basically replaced by taekwondo, judo, boxing, and kickboxing clubs. Traditional kung fu was no longer popular among young people because it was called fancy but not practical. The same situation happened in the mainland. On the other hand, the Chinese kung fu that Lu Chen had demonstrated to the world made everyone's eyes light up. Not only was it extremely powerful in actual combat, but its movements were also swift and fierce, and it had a powerful sense of violence. Lu Gangxing could see the role that China kung fu could play in the movie at first glance. He believed that Lu Chen would definitely bring China kung fu into the movie when he made The Proud Wanderer. In fact, the embryonic form of kung fu could already be seen in a Chinese ghost story, but it was covered up by the more exciting supernatural stories and special magic effects. The Proud Wanderer was a pure wuxia movie. Lu Gangxing didn't just want to show his face in The Proud Wanderer. He wanted to take this opportunity to explore new ways of acting and create a different image. Yes, Lu Chen instantly understood Lu Gangxing's thoughts and intentions. His eyes couldn't help but light up. Brother Xing, there are many roles you can choose from. However, I'm afraid you'll need to undergo a period of training. Wuxia kung fu movies couldn't be made just because one wanted to. Even if one wanted to use a martial arts substitute, one must first master some basic routines. Otherwise, the movie would be very problematic. Lu Gangxing smiled. That's not a problem. I usually exercise, so I'm not afraid of hardships. Practicing martial arts was very tiring and torturous, especially if one wanted to master real skills. It was obviously impossible without hard work. Lu Gangxing undoubtedly wanted to challenge himself. Although he was already over 50 years old. The more they talked, the more the topic gradually shifted to The Proud Wanderer. This movie, which was adapted from a best-selling wuxia novel, was undoubtedly a huge challenge for Lu Chen, because he didn't want to shoot it according to the movie of the same name in his memory. Instead, he wanted to rewrite the script and make a real wuxia blockbuster. At that time, Lu Chen would be the leading actor, the screenwriter, the composer, and the action director. Any mistake in any aspect would affect the shooting of the movie. Interestingly, Lu Gangxing had actually read The Proud Wanderer and was very familiar with the characters in it. He was completely prepared. Lu Chen couldn't help asking, Brother Xing, if you had a choice, which one would you choose? Originally, Lu Chen wanted to write the script and give it to Lu Gangxing for him to choose the roles. Now that he knew that Lu Gangxing had read the original novel, he simply brought it up. Lu Gangxing thought for a moment and answered, Lu Jingfeng and Xiang Wenyan. Lu Jingfeng and Xiang Wenyan? Lu Chen silently chewed on these two names, and a faint idea formed in his heart. What are you two talking about? At this time, Lu Jingyi and Chen Fei came hand in hand. They were smiling like a pair of beautiful sisters. Lu Gangxing and Lu Chen looked at each other and smiled. Lu Chen said, I'm talking about the movie with Brother Xing. Where are we going for lunch? Chen Fei smiled and said, Sister Shifang will cook for lunch, and Sister Jingyi will also make a few dishes. I'll go and help. You two can continue talking. I'll call you when we're at the table. Lu Gangxing clapped his hands and said, I haven't eaten Linda's dishes for a long time. I'm so lucky today. Linda was Shi Fang's English name. Shi Fang's cooking skills had been passed down in her family. She had even appeared on TV before. However, except for her best friends, it was extremely difficult for others to taste her cooking. Lu Gangxing said to Lu Chen, You're really lucky. More than an hour later, Lu Chen also thought that he was really lucky. He didn't expect Shi Fang's cooking skills to be so excellent. Although she couldn't be compared with those top chefs, the dishes she carefully cooked looked, smelled, and the ingredients were even more exquisite. He couldn't stop praising her. Shi Fang also took a bottle of 1993 Mouton wine from the wine cellar and shared it with everyone. The guests and the host all enjoyed the lunch. In the afternoon, they sat in the garden and continued to chat, but the topic turned to the upcoming 50th anniversary celebration party of Hong Kong's return. Lu Chen and Chen Fei's performance had already been reported. It was a song that Lu Chen had specially written for this grand celebration, and it was sung by a group. In addition to the two of them, Lu Gangxing and Shi Fang were also on the list of singers of the same song. The standard was probably unprecedented. It was also because of this song that the four of them gathered together today. There would be a dress rehearsal for the party tomorrow, and they didn't have much time left. Because there were still things to deal with, Lu Chen and Chen Fei didn't stay for dinner. Shi Fang asked her assistant to drive them back to their home in Repulse Bay. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.